And I got a terrible feeling, man. I'm like, something's wrong, like, So I start shooting at him. All I know is that if somebody's disrespecting me, I should just take off on them at that time.
My guest today is a man named Christopher Curtis. Chris is from Orange County, California, and was serving a life sentence in the CDC under the infamous California 3 strikes law. He spent years on level 4 prison yards where he described the other inmates as killing for sport. These are his words. He has a fascinating story about his time in the streets and how he ended up with a life sentence, what prison is like for people doing life, and what happened to allow him to clean himself up and get out early. He's got a great book about his story, Orange County, The Dark Side, available on Amazon right now. He's only been out of prison for 2 years off of a 20-year stretch, but he's turned his life around. He's an electrician, he's getting married, and he helps at-risk youth. 5% of the proceeds from his book go to helping these youth. So make sure to go out and get it. It's a great read. Without further ado, I give you Christopher Curtis right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
I come out of the hotel room. Unmarked cars just surrounded me. And I'm looking at each one of them, and I'm like, I got a Glock 45 on my lap. So I'm in another high-speed chase.
That's when I see the lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. And then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, shank, like 6 inches. And then he passes it to me. And he goes, here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this. He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
It shows you how violent California used to be, though. Like they imposed these incredibly harsh sentences because there was so much violence in the streets.
Still is. It's just suppressed. They just don't. But a lot of the kids are on fentanyl. They weren't like the 90s were. In the early 2000s were a lot different on the streets than they are now.
How so?
Well, because the meth back then was real, and everybody was just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, these kids are on
downers.
They're on downers.
Oh, that's fascinating.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
that
we're on meth.
So true.
Like, when meth came in, like I know I was crazy. You know what I mean? The guys I was running around with were pretty crazy.
Right.
So
you have the crack and the meth era. These are hyper upper drugs, and therefore you have more street violence, more everything that entails, right?
Yeah.
And now kids just overdose and die.
Yeah, they're just done.
Yeah.
If I was living now as a kid, I'd probably be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly everybody I know.
Yeah.
That went through the same thing I went through. We'd all be dead probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're from Orange.
From the city of Orange, yeah.
City of Orange in Orange County.
Yeah.
And that used to just be farmland back in the day.
It was all orange groves back in the day.
All orange groves.
But when I grew up there, I was born in 71. So, most of that was gone.
Yeah.
There was still a little bit, but yeah.
And people associate Orange County with surfing and the reality show.
Orange County Housewives.
Yeah.
It's all glamour. Everybody thinks it's a rich area.
Laguna Beach.
Yeah, that's why I put Orange County, the dark side.
Yeah.
In the book, because, it just shows that.
Yeah, because you've got Orange County on the coast, right? You've got the city, which are incredibly wealthy. You got Laguna, Newport, Costa Mesa.
Villa Park is wealthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Anaheim Hills, mostly Anaheim Hills.
But then there's a whole swath of Orange County just pushed inland a little bit. And I don't know what it is. The culture just bred that kind of, if you listen to Sublime and the culture of Sublime, it was like that. The roots of it were in this, like, I'll say it even though it's mean, a white trash kind of white gangbanging mixed with Latino gangbanging culture.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a street hooligan type culture. You know what I mean? Where do you think that comes from? Is it just
drugs and lack of, parents being responsible and, controlling their kids.
So what did your parents or your father was very irresponsible?
Well, I grew up in a great childhood in the beginning. My dad was well off. He had a great company. He was a brick mason. He was a little league coach.
Wow.
And then, when I was around 12 years old, or a little bit, a little bit before that, he started using cocaine with a friend, and then it just went from there. And then he lost the house, and then, and my mom left him because of the drugs. And then,
He was spending all his money on cocaine?
Yeah, he lost everything. We had a, nice house.
Mm-hmm.
We had everything we wanted when we were kids until I was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
We had everything.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you mean when you say everything?
I mean, we had real pinball machine in the house. We had all the, ColecoVision and television, everything we wanted.
See, I think that's the problem with the Orange County mentality right there is you say we had everything. Did you have books? Did you have any kind of guidance beyond material? Well, back
things? Then, I mean, I just remember I was a hyperactive kid. Like I was bad. I was constantly just running around. Mm-hmm. I was on Ritalin. In kindergarten, Ritalin, I was on Ritalin. They started me on Ritalin, because I couldn't sit still in school. I'd just walk out of class,
Right.
But I was just everywhere on my bike, We were just everywhere. My parents would be like, just be home before the streetlights came on. Right. And I would come back dirty and they would, I'd throw me in the bath and feed me and I'd pretty much be out,
Right.
But yeah, it was, now that I think about it, my dad, I think the drugs, it took me a long time to realize that I had a lot of resentments towards my dad until I realized addiction and recovery. And I started, understanding, obviously he had issues too.
Yeah.
His dad was an alcoholic,
right. It's usually passed down the line.
Yeah. There's, whatever, but he, the drugs him up.
So you were 13 when you remember your father heavily into coke?
Well, I was 13. It was New Year's night at the age of 13 that my dad started me and my best friend on cocaine when we moved in with him. So,
oh, wow.
It was one of them things where, I'll give you a little story. So when I was a kid, when my parents first lost the house that we lived in, we moved into this other house down the street, which was okay. And I met some kids there and, I was hanging around with these kids for a couple months. And then one day after school, they all approached me saying, hey, you're a drug addict, call me cocaine sniffer, and I'm just a kid. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I guess their parents knew my dad, their parents' friends knew my dad or whatever, and said, that, my dad, lost everything because of cocaine.
Wow.
So these kids weren't allowed to hang out with me anymore. And I'm just a kid. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I didn't know anything about drugs or nothing. I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm just a kid. So,
did that hurt?
Yeah. It was terrible. Being a kid that young, I didn't know, just being an innocent little kid coming from a great family to now just all the kids in school thinking you're a drug addict. Nobody wanted to be around me. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
And then I ended up, meeting this kid named Brandon and we became really good friends. His parents were kind of poor. And then from there, and then a couple months later, my mom left my dad and, my dad moved down the street and my mom went with my aunt. We kind of went back and forth. And then a little bit later, me and my brother moved in with my dad.
So when did he give you cocaine for the first time?
It was New Year's night, like 1983 or 84 or something. And, it's funny that, cause he comes out with like one of them vials, with cocaine in it. And I seen it. And the first thing I thought about was what those kids were saying. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow, what's going on? So he sits down with us. We're at the table listening to music, records, that's how long ago that was, listening to records. And it's New Year's night. People are coming and going out of the house. And we kind of didn't really know what was going on, but, we found out quickly, what was happening. But he poured, some white substance on a mirror, started chopping it up, made up 3 lines.
Wow.
And he did one, then he, hey, go ahead, try it. And I did it. And right away, I was like, this is great,
Yeah.
Instant euphoria,
Well, 1984, you were getting good coke too.
Well, it was, he had the
spoiled kid here.
The connection lived in the house. So it was like, an Italian. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It was like your dad's roommate?
It was a drug house. Yeah. It was like major amounts of coke going in and out of the house. Weed, Thai stick, Humboldt, oil, just all sorts of it was off the hook, man. And me being a kid, this is great, So, I'd get lines for doing the dishes. He
gives you lines of coke for doing the
dishes, for washing the truck, or for Christmas, got a 0.5 gram of cocaine, a carton of cigarettes.
How long did that last? And did you become an addict?
Oh, right away. I was done. I was done. Like,
how How often were you doing it?
As much as possible.
Right.
Whatever, as much as possible.
And whatever he had, you would dip into his stash?
See, it was kind of like, he was still struggling. Now that I look back, he was, the connection was his roommate.
Right.
But there would be times where I'd come out to school because his roommate lived right across from my door. So I'd open the door and his door would be wide open. And there'd be big bags of cocaine and cash and all this sitting there. And I'd be like, what? Because he never keeps his door open. So I already knew, like, he's fell asleep in the, out in the front room, because he used to go out and cook cocaine in the little vial on the stove, I'd go in the room and take spoonfuls and grab cash, and me and my friends, we'd party all day.
Did you ever freebase?
Yeah, of course. That started happening. Yeah.
So you're like 14 years old. You're not even in high school yet. Or you're like a freshman in high school?
I was in 7th grade when this happened.
Oh my goodness.
I was in 7th grade.
And so you're getting your friends hooked?
Oh, me and my best friend Jared, right away, we were, we were using it all the time. And then, other friends would come over, and then we'd all hang out there and smoke weed and do coke.
And your father's gets into selling it, obviously.
Oh, he was selling it. Yeah, but his roommate was the connection. My dad was a brick mason. He still went to work. He still gave us food. I mean, not a lot. We ate a lot of McDonald's, but it was just different. And it just destroyed me.
And your mom didn't want to save you from this horrible situation?
She didn't really know what was going on, but she found out because they all went to the same bar, So, there was rumors what was going on. And, everybody we knew, the older people, like, my dad's friends, they would come over and buy coke. And, of course, they started saying stuff. They figured it out.
Can you imagine your own daughter living in a house like that? I mean, it's enough. You could get your kids taken away now with putting them in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
It was different back in the 80s.
It was different.
Too,
I remember this teacher, Miss Brandt, she was cool, but she would always ask me, like, hey, what's going on? Like, oh, no, everything's fine, But it was weird, like she knew.
Right.
You know what I mean? But she always tried to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Like we'd always, and it was a trip, man.
When you went to school high on coke, what was that like? Did it calm you down?
No, it was doing cocaine for me. It just like makes you all sketched out, and I didn't like,
So did it make you like a quiet, sketchy,
of course,
kind of paranoid person? Yeah. That's how it makes that. When I used to do it, that's what it would do to me. But you enjoyed it though, still.
Well, I enjoyed it until it was gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was cool till it was gone.
What were those come downs like?
We want more,
Yeah.
I remember on the way to probation department, because me and my friends, we vandalized the school. This is like, I don't know, we were like still 7th grade, broke into the school cafeteria because we got kicked out of a Saturday work study, and we destroyed the place. We broke all their trophies, threw the piano off the stage. Just we were there all weekend long. We would like leave and then come back and party there. And so we ended up on probation. We went to juvenile hall for that. And on the way to the probation department, my dad would pull out his little vial, and hit it on the steering wheel and give me some coke before we went to the probation department. It was just.
Oh, you had no chance.
It was just a different,
No, it wasn't different. I mean, it was different, but it was up.
Yeah. It was messed up.
Were you able to, when you later caught your criminal cases, felony cases, one that, sent you away for life, or what was supposed to be life, were you able to argue, like talk about your childhood as a way to get mitigating circumstances? I
think that's really doesn't come into play. You know what I mean? I think that the only thing that would come into play for that is being just crazy at that time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And plus you don't want to say that. You know what I mean? You're just like, they tried that in juvenile. I don't even know, like, to be honest with you, I don't really know, but I know that I never said that. You know what I mean? I never used that. Because if you do that too, then they're like, oh, well, this guy's just, he has no chance anyways.
What kind of lawyer did you have?
Just a regular public defender,
Well, that was probably the issue, because when you say, okay, this kid grew up addicted to drugs that his father gave him, a judge could maybe look at that and say, okay, well, he doesn't deserve to be doing life. Like, there's got to be something we could do. Send him to drug court, or get him a drug program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but back then they really didn't have that.
Didn't
have that, all that. Like, and by the time they did start doing that, I was already, my past.
You were a gangster.
My past, for the shooting and, for the high-speed chases and all that stuff. They were like, I tried to get the Romero Act. Matter of fact, I tried to get the Romero Act when I got busted in 2002. And I pled guilty to the case that I got life for because I was trying to get the Romero Act.
What is that? Finding a pair of jeans that fits just right can be a challenge. Most are too tight or rigid to feel comfortable. Today's sponsor, The Perfect Jean, makes great-looking, perfect-fitting jeans that are just as comfortable as sweatpants. Their special denim fabric is super soft with the perfect amount of stretch, so you can fix a sink, fly a drone, or live stream all day in them without ever wanting to take them off. With cuts from skinny to thick, and waist sizes from 26 to 50, they've got every body type covered, from big old fat slobs to skinny twigs like myself. I love The Perfect Jean. They sent me a pair about a month ago, and it's basically all that I wear now. I rotate those between like a pair of slacks and these jeans. They're amazing. And what I love most about them, as they say, is the stretchability of it. It feels like I'm almost wearing an athletic pant, but in a good-looking pair of jeans. So I wear them on stage when I'm doing stand-up, here on the podcast, out on a date. It's perfect. I can't say enough about them. The days of buying jeans in person at the store at Macy's are over. You've got to order these jeans online today. If you want to feel as good as I feel, you can shop risk-free. The Perfect Jean always has free shipping, exchanges, and returns. It's time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans. Amen. I feel that. Go to theperfectjean.nyc. And right now, Connect listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code CONNECT15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code CONNECT15. That's CONNECT15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. It really helps us out. Forget the khakis and get on The Perfect Jean today.
The Romero Act is where they strike a strike and they you get like 10 years. You know what I mean? And
right.
They were giving it to a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
But, their history wasn't like mine,
Yeah.
But I still tried to do it.
Yeah.
And they were like, no. But since I did do that, since I did, plead guilty, didn't take them through the, the process, spend all the money to go into court back and forth. They only gave me 28 to life instead of 107 years. No, instead of 107 years to life.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which even if they gave me the 107 years to life, how everything changed, I would have still got out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it just, the Prop 57 is.
Well, we're going to get into that. Yeah. Save that because this is a huge piece of legislation that changes the fate of so many people in California.
It changes
prison.
everything. And it also ruined California.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that too. Yeah, that's what's so ironic about it. Yeah. How crazy is that? Yeah. Turns out we needed some of those laws.
Yeah, I went a little too far on that one. But
exactly.
Thank you for getting me
exactly.
out.
That's the problem with America. It's like one extreme after another. It's about trying to find a balance.
Yeah.
So what age then did you start selling coke?
I was selling it right away at school to whoever I could sell it to. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Like the kids at school had money to buy coke?
Yeah, of course. There was a few kids that bought it, and we even sometimes, like, my dad started cutting the coke sometimes, like, keep selling it to us.
Right.
So when we couldn't get it from his roommate on the side.
Yeah.
Because my dad would get mad, we'd take off to Santa Ana. We'd all go down to Santa Ana and buy, like, we were just a kid, a baby, Now that I think about it, I was a small kid too.
Yeah.
I was like 4'11" until I turned like 17 or 18. Then I just started growing.
So you were re-upping from...
Yeah, we'd go to Santa Ana and get it from them and, from the Mexicans down there. And, yeah.
And so you take it to school and sell it and then...
Yeah, we'd sell it, whatever. So weed all the time, Yeah.
What, did you finish high school?
No. I stopped going to school, I think 8th grade. I just dropped out.
Wow. And so what are you doing from 14 to 18 when you become an adult?
Just drugs. You know?
Yeah.
Ran away, went to juvenile hall. I went to like continuation school, you know, in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Like, you know, where you just do independent study or whatever. You know, I did that for a minute, you know, and then I turned 18 and I got off probation. You know, luckily the Ritalin comes up, you know, if you take Ritalin and you drug test, it's going to come up dirty for meth. So I kept getting dirties. And then my mom and the probation officer worked out a thing where I got on Ritalin. So I'd get off probation and then get out of the juvenile system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started doing meth. And then that was, you know, that was a whole nother world. Now I was out and about. Like, you know, I wasn't, you know, like just hanging around in the house or whatever.
So you ran away from home to get away from your father.
Yeah.
Did he end up going to prison for?
No.
He never got in trouble for selling drugs?
He did like a weekends, you know, because he's never been in trouble before. He was a good person until all that, you know?
Yeah.
And then, but he was drug testing, you know, when I was living with him after he got busted, you know, when I was going to get him coke and stuff like that. I think he got it dirty a couple times, but they didn't do nothing. But he worked, man.
Okay, so
he was a great worker.
All through his addiction, he worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, he was a brick mason.
Is he alive today?
No. He about a couple weeks after I got busted in 2002, he died of a heart attack.
Wow.
He just died. Yeah.
And that's what 25 years of cocaine will do.
Well, didn't really, you know, he ate pretty unhealthy. He was overweight, you know. He surfed all the time, you know. Still surfed all the time. But he
did he ever get clean?
Well, they said he was clean, but I know my brother would go over there and get him stuff like that, you know. I don't really know, you know, because we just didn't really talk after that, you know.
Right.
Once I got older and kind of like, you know, we just didn't really talk, you know.
So you run away to Anaheim.
No, I ran away to my brother's, which was in Orange down the street.
Okay.
You know, and I lived there and we just did coke. You know, that's when I stopped going to school. And then, you know, they lost the place. And then my mom got a place in Anaheim off Rio Vista and Lincoln. And then that's when I started doing meth, you know.
And you never went back to coke after that?
No.
Yeah. So
I thought it was, you know, great because I could run around and, you know, do whatever. And, you know, it just, yeah.
Yeah. Meth is like coke for seniors. It's like coke for, you know, you graduate to meth after doing coke. It seems like most people.
Yeah.
Right. So are you committing crime at this point? Are you working? Or when do you get into the street stuff and the gangbanging?
So it started with, you know, we'd steal cans. Like, you know, me and my buddy would go around in the daytime and like drive around, look on the side of houses. You could see people, you know, bags of cans. And we'd write the addresses down. And then we'd come back at night and go pick them all up, you know. And we'd get like $200 a night sometimes, you know.
Right. That's almost not a crime what you're describing. It sounds like you guys are recycling. I think those people were just going to, I think it was either you or the city. How is this a crime?
Well, because we're stealing people's cans. You know, people save them for money to, you know, whatever. They're saving those cans up to, we're stealing from somebody, you know, maybe it's their kids saving for something, you know.
Sure. Okay.
We're out there, you know.
Cleaning the environment. Sure.
Whatever. But, and then from there, you know, my mom, she kicked me out, you know, because I just wouldn't stop using drugs, you know, and then I ended up on the streets.
Homeless?
Not homeless. I never was really homeless because I just at that time I started doing telemarketing. You know, back in the 90s, I got this job doing telemarketing, and I was making a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I was making a lot of money as a kid, you know. You can
when you're high on meth, you could just dial and talk.
You know,
and
it's just it was a system, you know.
Yeah.
We had cards of leads that we'd buy, just people that buy this stuff, like the 1 to 5 promotion.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you've been selected to receive all the way to a brand new car. You know, I'm not at liberty to tell you what you're gonna get, but I got instant information that, you know, you're gonna win. And then we would sell these, like Beauty in the Box was the big thing from Beverly Hills. It's like an assortment of hair, skin, and body products that dramatically tailored to enhance your appearance. And these old people would suck that stuff up.
Oh, wow.
So we would sell that, $3,000 worth of that, I get the commission from that. I was bringing sometimes home like $2,000 cash a week.
Oh, so you found something you were good at.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I was spending it all on meth. Of
course.
You know what I mean?
That's
and
the problem.
Started running around with different crowds of people, gangs started coming, and then I was on the streets, and then it's just all about drugs.
Right.
And then next thing you know, I was hanging around people that, were shooting at people. And
who were the Orange County gangs? Who were they at the time? You were in the streets? Because there's a lot of gangs. People don't realize this. There's a lot of street gangs out of Orange County.
Yeah. For the whites, it was P9, CWB, Hooligan Skins, War Skins. There's a bunch of, I can't remember all of them, NLR. But those were more prison. That was a prison gang at the time.
The Nazi lowriders.
Yeah,
right?
It just started. And, you start running around with these people. And I used to tell myself, I'll never be like these guys. There's no way, I'll never be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, I was just, I was just like carrying a gun.
Yeah.
I was getting shot at. So I'm like, I'm not going to, and that's.
Who's shooting at you?
Well,
rivals? And who are the rivals? Are the rivals Mexican gangs or other white gangs?
We would go like stealing car stereos or whatever.
Right.
And we get chased in the neighborhoods by these Mexican gangs. It's their neighborhood.
Right.
Get shot at, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going to, and then, I just started carrying a gun because that's what was going on, and next thing you know, I'm shooting at people like it's nothing, it's crazy. Because I never thought I would be like that, know? And then it came to a point where it was nothing for me.
To shoot at somebody?
It's nothing. Do
you remember shooting at people? Are there any particular times that stand out to you?
Yeah. So there was this one time, me and my buddy, we like hijacked this truck one time down in Anaheim. This was back in like 92 or whatever. The guy went in to deliver a package. We jumped in and, took it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was in a car. He jumped out, took it. We dropped it off. We were going to come back at night and get it. So we split up. And I'm walking down the street and I see this guy with long hair. And I was like, hey, you do meth? He's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, let's go to your house. I'm trying to get off the streets right now. We left the car, everything. I'm trying to get off the streets. I got a gun on, whatever.
Yeah.
I got to get off the streets.
Your friend has the car, right?
Well, no, we got rid of everything in case, because he's seen us in that car. And at that time, you get caught doing something like that, it's a life sentence.
Right.
So we just got rid of everything. And we go into this house. I go into this house and it's full of tweakers. And it's like in an area that I know. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know about this place. What's going on here? And it's like a whole different, branch of tweakers.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, man, I could sell dope out of this house. Well, this is great, Right. And the girl's like, oh, I got a room for rent and all this. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll rent the room,
Yeah.
So then I tell my buddy about it because, we're selling a bunch of drugs, and we get the room there. And the first night we're there, we're in the room. We got a bunch of dope. We're weighing it out, and this girl comes in and goes, hey, this guy wants to buy an ounce of dope. I'm like, well, tell him to come in. And she's like, no, he won't come in. I'm like, all right. So I grab my gun. I grab the dope. I go out there. And he's like, well, give me the dope. She's like in his car, started and whatever. I'm like, no. I go, if I wanted your I showed him my gun. I'd just take it. Like, give me the money. I'll give you the dope, So he throws a wad of cash on the front seat. And it looks like the money's there. I mean, I don't know.
How much is an ounce of dope?
I just like $600 at the time or something like that. I can't really remember.
And is this biker dope? Were you getting it from bikers or white boys, or was it Mexican?
It's like we were getting it from Mexicans or just, we would all meet up and, Midway City and pick it up and, and then we'd take off, But so he throws the money on the seat. I grab the money and throw the dope on the seat and he just burns rubber.
Yeah.
So I start shooting at him. You know what I mean? In my mind, I'm like, what's going on here? So this is in the middle of daytime right by Disneyland. So I'm shooting at him as he's turning the corner. And then I go in the house and my friend's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, because I'm always like, this is always happening. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know. The dude just took off, dude. And he counted the money. It was $5 short. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, he's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, that was a clean drug deal.
But
like,
the thing is, you gave
him the drugs, he gave you the money.
Yeah, but he took off. Like, I'm in my mind, what's going on here? Is this guy burning me? Like, is money fake or what? You know, I don't know.
Right.
But that's how crazy.
And so you were shooting at his truck.
It was his car. So I'm shooting at him, just going around the corner. You know, like, and I go inside. The girl goes, yeah, you guys can't live here no more. We got kicked out the first night. So
your mind is so warped by methamphetamine.
Or whatever. That's what it came to. That's like one of the ones that sticks out, you know? Like, and then it started like a little, you know, riff or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by our longtime partner, Mood. If you're a fan of the show, then you know Mood by now. They're my favorite online dispensary. But wait, they've made some changes. Mood has long been associated with Delta 8, but now they have an offering of many other types of products, including Delta 9 and THCA. But don't worry, they're still federally legal. That's right. These guys have worked with federal agencies to comply with all federal laws and figured out how to supply THC-based products legally. Their online dispensary offers a wide variety of flower, pre-rolls, edibles, gummies, vapes, and concentrates. All products shipped discreetly right to your door. Head over to hellomood.co to find out what makes them such a great company. And while you're there, use my coupon code CONNECT20 to receive 20% off your first order plus a free 5-count pack of gummies. That's right. Use code CONNECT20 at checkout at hellomood.co for 20% off your first order plus a free 5-count pack of gummies. I love Mood. Support them because they support us. They are a longtime legacy sponsor. I love them. I can't say enough about them. Go check it out and get that free 5-count pack of gummies. Okay, let's get back into the episode.
So now these guys are like, hey, you know, we're going to get Chris or whatever. And then some more stuff happened. And they're calling my friend, telling, you know, my friend, you know, this girl I know, hey, we're going to get Chris, you know. And
so these guys that you shot at, they
wanted
whatever.
To come back and then some more stuff happened too, right? And then, you know, she's telling them like, dude, you guys are going to get shot if you go after Chris, you know?
Yeah.
You guys are going to get hurt. You know, you better just leave it alone. A couple months later, I'm with this girl and she's dropping off something, checks or something, you know, she's doing something. And there's a bunch of guys sitting out in front of the apartment complex just in Anaheim. I don't know who they are. They don't look familiar to me. It's far away or whatever. But I got my gun. I don't care. Like, I'm just sitting there. And then them guys take off. And then she goes, hey, come on up, you know. Mm. So I go up in the apartment. And I'm sitting on the couch. And these guys walk in. And now I remember who they are. It's all these guys that say they're going to get me. And they leave. They look at me. And they're like shaking their head like, all right. And then they take off. So I tell the girl, hey, we're out of here. And then the guy comes out, you know, he's all tatted back and, you know, he's an older dude. And he's like, hey, those guys are going to be out there waiting for you. You better stay here. I'm like, look, dude, I'm out of here. I go, you got kids here. I go, I don't want to bring any problems here, but I'm leaving, dude. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, whatever, you know. So, you know, we're leaving and I'm up on top of the stairs and there's like 6 or 7 guys at the bottom of the stairs. And I tell the girl I'm with, I'm just go get in the car. They're not going to mess with you, you know. So I get to the bottom of the stairs. I got my hand in my pocket. You know, I keep my gun loaded. I'm ready to, you know, whatever. I'm not going to lose, you know. And I'm like, what's up? And they don't even say anything to me. I'm like sitting there like, yeah, whatever. So I get in the car. And once I get in the car on the passenger side, they rush the car and they're hitting me through the window. And they start opening the door and I just shot them, you know. And then that's when I shot them 2 guys.
I see.
And then
hold on. So where did you shoot them? What happened? Did any of them get killed?
They didn't die, but I shot one dude twice and one dude once. But I get out of the car because it's in the middle, like it's on a Friday night. Like it's not night yet, but there's people everywhere. Yeah. There's kids, there's people everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? I get out of the car and there's only one guy there when I get out of the car. The rest of the guys ran.
Right.
And he's crawling away and I picked him up and I turned him over. I'm like, you stupid, like I was pissed. Like, you dumb. You know, I carry a gun. You know what I mean? And because I knew I was done at that point. Like, I knew it was over.
Why wouldn't you have driven off?
Well,
like,
I did drive off. But at the point, I turned the dude over like, dude, what the fuck? You know, like I was mad. Like, what are you doing, dude? You know, I carry a gun, you stupid, you know? And I got in the car and split because she stalled the car thinking they were shooting at us and whatever. I told her, yeah, get out of the car. And We drove off.
Where did you hit the guys? Did you think you had
one
killed
dude
them?
in the lung?
Oh my God.
And another dude in the back and in the chest somewhere.
Oh, wow. So they're lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
What kind of gun was it?
It's just 22. I like carrying 22s. You know, they're small, the Berettas, they fit in your pocket. You can't see them. I like the safeties on. That was just me, you know.
Did you call the ambulance?
No, we're gone, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and I told the girl, I was like, hey, I'm going to send you to my buddy's house and he's going to paint your car.
Yeah.
Like right away.
Okay.
Otherwise, you know, and I told her, you know, because she's got kids, I remember telling her, like, when they catch you, just tell them what happened. I don't care, you know, because I'm done anyway. I know I'm busted. And before we even got to the dude's house, my buddy's house, to paint the car, the cops are paging me. Like literally 5 minutes.
Like you got a 911 on your pager?
No, I got a call from my pager.
Yeah.
I called the number. It's the cops, you know?
Right.
And they're like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, nothing, what's happening? They're like, hey, you should come turn yourself in. I'm like, for what? They're like, you know, for what? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll be over there later. And then that was it. I was on the run, you know?
Oh man, me and you are not the same. I would not have, if I had shot and potentially killed 2 people, I would be in Mexico.
Yeah.
You just didn't seem, again, you were thinking like a drug addict. So you weren't thinking like you were just gave up right away. I'm not saying what you did shooting somebody is right, but like real criminals would shoot somebody and then go try to cover up their crime. It seems like the drug mind is such that it's like, I don't care what happens to me. You really had I don't care. You had a great apathy towards everything. It seemed like, besides getting high. Is that accurate?
Yeah. At that point though, you know, there was a bunch of people that knew me there. The cops already know who I am. They already know what's up. You know, if
so
I had, if I was smart, I would have ran. But then I don't want to go to Mexico. You're going to get caught. You know, but I thought I was going to get life in prison, like because attempted murder is a life sentence. 2 counts of attempted murder is definitely a life sentence. So, you know, I'm on the run, thinking, you know, I'm done. This is over.
So yes, you did go on the run for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But where'd you run to?
Just around Anaheim.
Okay, so not very far.
Yeah, they were raiding houses looking for me, and I was just doing what I can to survive. I'd sold everything and was on my motorcycle. I had a GSXR 750, and I was just waiting. Yeah, you know. And then I was in the garage at my buddy, because my buddy broke the chain on it doing wheelies. So I'm in the garage off of Dale Street in Anaheim, and I'm changing the chain. And I got a terrible feeling, man. I'm like, something's wrong. Like, you know, like I didn't even bleed the clutch or nothing. Like, I'm out of here. I used the starter. As soon as I got out of the driveway, unmarked cars are coming from both directions. It's high-speed chase, you know.
Oh, you took them on a high speed?
Oh, yeah. Like, in the lunchtime in Anaheim. Like, running red lights at 110 miles an hour. Yeah, it went on for like 15 minutes, you know. And I clipped a crossing guard. And crashed. Like I just barely like nicked him like on the shoulder, like whatever. And I lost control and I slid for like, I don't know how long on my elbows. I tumbled. I was bleeding everywhere. And I got up and ran and, you know, I jumped a couple fences and ended up in kicked the janitor's closet down off of, I think it was like Lincoln or something or Catella. I can't remember exactly. And just shut the door and lit a cigarette. Because I ditched the cops. Yeah. But I was flying down the street and the gear shifter fell off because I didn't have time to put everything back together. So I pulled over to put the gear shifter back on. You know, I had to turn the bike off and I could hear the helicopter. So I knew at that point, you know, it's pretty much over. You know? So I just kicked the door down, lit a cigarette, and was just waiting. I could hear them running outside. Yeah. You know, over here, you know. They kicked the door down. I had like 9 guns in my face. I was just like with a cigarette in my mouth, like, you know, that was it. And the cops said, like, one of the investigators stopped me and said, like when they were taking me to the car, he's like, you should have turned yourself in. These guys said they started everything. And I'm thinking to myself, like, turn myself in. Like, are you crazy? And then I get to court and I was like, my public defender goes, hey, they're offering you 6 years, 85%, 2 strikes. I'm like, yeah, I'll sign it.
Oh, wow. So you didn't even argue the strikes.
No, but I should have.
Right.
I messed up.
Right.
I just, 6 years, 85%. I'm at, what's up?
So basically, let's talk about that really quick. For people that don't understand the strike system in California, could you break it down for the people?
Okay, so when the California 3-strike law came out, it was supposed to be, 3 violent felonies, you get life.
Yeah, and that's mandatory, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the judge doesn't have discretion if you have your third strike.
Just like any other law that Congress passes or anybody passes, there's always a way to manipulate it.
Right.
So they were just striking people out for everything.
Yeah.
Pizza, half gram of this or whatever. And that went on for a lot of time until they came out with, I forget the law it was, but it came out where, these people that did get convicted like that, they gave them a chance, right? And they let them back out,
Right. But at the time, this is the mid 90s. And when it first, I remember reading about it, a 17-year-old girl was like shot to death in Fresno, and the guys that did it got like 17 months.
And that was and that was Polly Klaas, I think. I think the name of her was Polly Klaas, and that's her father's the one that pushed for this law.
For the law, yeah.
And even he was like, once they started using it,
yeah,
and they started manipulating the law, even he was like, well, wait a minute, it wasn't supposed to pretend to be that. Yeah.
Right. So what prosecutors did, and in Oregon, there's something called Measure 11, which is a version of 3 strikes, but it's essentially just mandatory minimums for violent crime. So what it did was gave tons of power to prosecutors. So in cases like yours, to just get people to plea out, because you had the people you shot said that they started it. Like, you had a real self-defense case here. Now you could maybe argue that you overdid it, right? It was an unnecessary use of force, but that's like manslaughter 3 or something. That's not something you get 6 years on your first felony. Yeah. But the prosecutors, knowing that they have the strike system, offer you that they use it as a way to get you to take a plea really quick. Yeah. Like, here's 6 years. It's not that bad, but you got to take 2 strikes.
Yeah. And they still do that on other crimes,
That's serious. So you should have fought it, right?
If I would have just put it off for another couple court cases, I might have been able to get it down to 3 years, but I still think I would have got the 2 strikes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because when I went back to the county jail, people were like, you should have fought it more. You would have got less time. I was like, dude, I thought I was getting life. You're 6 years. I shot 2 people. I'm signing this. I'm gone. I'm getting out. I'm going to prison.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would think, gosh, I'd rather take a little more time and no strikes or 1 strike.
Yeah, but that wasn't happening at the time.
That wasn't an
strikes.
option.
Yeah. Right. So for me, I got those 2 strikes. That was it. Anything I do, I'm lucky I didn't get struck out in prison at that point. Like, I was very lucky to make it through how I did,
Right.
There were times when I was, bringing knives out of the kitchen or, getting a cell hit. We had meth or just whatever.
Right. Was the 3rd strike, but it had to be a felony though, right? On your 3rd strike?
Yeah, it had to be a felony, but any felony after, you were done,
Yeah, literally. Then, if you were selling a bag of weed and you caught a felony off of that, that would send you to prison, you're done. Life.
And I remember telling myself, if I make it out of here, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm done, and that's the mindset I had, you know, and I went through my 6 years.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So tell us about that first stretch. Where did you go?
I went to Sentinella, level 3.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for, 3 to 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And I was fighting a lot. Yeah. I almost started a riot my first day on the yard with the Mexicans,
How did that come about?
Well, I was on the phone and these Mexican kids come up to me and say, hey, it's my phone time. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, in my mind, no, it's not. Like, I'm just a white kid. I got no tattoos. They're just looking at me like, whatever. Like, they're going to just get over on me. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, yeah, it is, Wood, like this and that. I go, okay, well, I'm going to go look at the list. I've come back here. You don't get off the phone. We're going to have a problem. I don't really know the rules at this time. Right. I'm just like fresh. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, whatever. All I know is that if somebody's disrespecting me, I should just take off on them at that time.
Right.
I'm not realizing the consequences, So I go, my name's on the list. I come back there, he don't get off the phone. He's on with his family. I just take off on him.
Yeah.
So they put the yard down, take his program office. And then when I come back, my celly's packing his stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, dude, we're going to get in a riot because of this. He goes, I'm not saying you're wrong, but there's going to be a riot because of this.
Oh my God.
It turned into a big old thing. And luckily, I used to run around with these Mexicans in Anaheim, and one of them was there. And he spoke up for me.
Yeah.
And said, like, hey, this guy used to run around with us a little bit, whatever, like, you know, whatever. It all blew over. But it was, for a while there, it was kind of like, it almost started, you know, a riot.
Yeah.
And then the shot caller for the yard, the white guy at the time, too, was all strung out on heroin. So he was kind of like a sympathizer for these dudes.
Yeah.
So, you know, luckily, I knew a guy, a Mexican dude, that kind of whatever.
So who were you running with? Nobody had taken you under their wing? Like,
well, I was from CWB. I was from Crazy White Boys. But, you know, the whites run with the whites.
Yeah.
And you're all doing what the Aryan Brotherhood tells you to do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're where is the Aryan Brotherhood given orders from? Pelican Bay?
From the shoe. From the shoe. The Corcoran shoe in Pelican Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was on a level 3, which is really like level 1s are really just, they're nothing. Level 2s are really nothing. Level 3s, okay. But they're, you know, not people are not getting killed all the time.
Yeah.
It's not as serious as it is when you go to level 4. Once you go to level 4 yard in California, that's where everything's like really like serious.
When was the first level 4 you went to?
I went to Corcoran.
Yeah.
So that last, you know, after that, some other stuff happened and I ended up going to Corcoran.
Okay. So now you've with the big boys.
Now I'm on level 4.
Yeah. Now it's extremely serious.
25 years old. You know, first, you know, haven't even been in prison a year yet.
Wow. And there's no fist fighting on level 4s.
Well, it just depends where you're at. You know, people will sit there. They see dudes on TikTok talking about all this crazy stuff, but it just really depends on which yard you're on.
What was Corcoran like?
Corcoran was different. Like when I got off the bus there, we're walking back with our stuff to the building, and you know, this northerner guy's getting stabbed. You know, bad. That was the first, you know, my first memory of level 4.
Watching that as you walk into the prison.
And then they put the yard down, and you know, we finally get back to our cells after they search everybody. You know, go on lockdown for a little bit. They let everybody off, but the northerners, you know, they stay on for another week or whatever till they investigate. And then
imagine that being your first introduction to level 4 prison.
Yeah.
Somebody getting stabbed. Was it Mexican on Mexican?
Well,
Sereno
on
Norteño?
The northerners, yeah. Northerners are stabbing one of their own.
Oh, the disciplining.
Yeah.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I don't know. But and then, you know, I was on orientation for a couple weeks, and then I got a celly. And then as soon as I get the celly, some guys come out of the hole with a kite, and it ended up being my celly. Something happened with him on another yard. He's got to go. So they're like, hey.
So how does that work?
That's my celly. I got to deal with it, you know?
Well, so you get a kite from...
I didn't get the kite. The kite came from the hole. Some guy came out of the hole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my homeboys come up tell me, hey, you know, this is what's going on and whatever. So I had to deal with it.
So what did your celly do? The man had to go.
I just beat the hell out of him.
Well, what did he do, though?
I don't really know exactly. Like, I don't know. But, you know, something happened on another yard.
And so
probably a drug debt or whatever, you know.
So did they tell you what you had to do? Or he just, like, when a kite comes from out of the hole, when orders come down from up top and they say, okay, you got to get rid of your celly, do they tell you got to kill him or just beat him up? Or do they just say he's got to get off?
Back then, at that time, this yard obviously wasn't that serious. Otherwise, we would have dealt with it in a different way. You know, killing became a sport later on in prison. Like, you know, it just all depends on what yard you're on. They're just like, hey, he's got to get rid of him, just beat the hell out of him. You know, I got a shoe out of it because he bled and there was, you know, he got up. So I got a shoe out of that, went to the shoe, came back out, and they put me on a yard at Corcoran. But it just depends on what yard you're on.
Right.
You know, it just depends, dude. Like what happens. Like, you know, like later on in the prisons that I went to, they were a little bit different. Like the 180 yards, where it was like a sport. Like you had to get caught, you had to kill the guy, you know, you know, and then one guy would tackle him and stab him in the legs, and the other guys would just stab him, you know. And we were cutting knives out of lockers, you know, that were, you know, you get those little black paper clips, you know what I'm talking about? That hold paper together. Yeah. You break those in half. You could cut metal. So, you know, you're cutting the lockers out, the biggest knife, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen some brutal murders, dude. Wow. Like this one kid I remember one time. This I'll never forget. And this was later on in doing time where I was older and I was just like, but anyways, this kid got busted for killing a couple of his friends in a drunk driving accident or something like that. He ends up on the yard. It's just a kid on a 180 yard, mind you, which they don't do that no more. They stopped sending kids to those yards because they were just, you know, whatever. They just stopped doing it. And this kid was caught getting coffee from a black guy. Like, you know, getting coffee on orientation. Yeah. And none of the white porters seen it. So he's on the yard. There's only like 15 of us on the yard, you know. There's not many whites on those high levels like that, you know, on those yards anyways. And they're out there, hey, we're going to get him when he comes off. You know, they're going to stab the dude, you know.
Over a bag of coffee.
Well, because he got it from a black guy.
And so explain that. You can't do any kind of trading with a different race?
Not blacks or northerners at that time.
Why?
Because the blacks run with the northerners.
And that's the enemy?
It's just one of them racist, stupid freaking rules is what it comes down to. So, you know, and I'm arguing with the shot caller, like, dude, the kid, he's a kid, man. Just give him a chance. Well, you know, before you end up on a yard, you end up in a reception center where usually somebody will tell you, don't do this, don't do that, whatever. You know, that's what they were, you know, arguing. Well, he was told, you know, before, you know. I'm like, he's just a kid, man. Just give him a chance. Let's work with him, whatever, you know. Yeah. They're like, all right, you know, whatever. So, you know, this takes a couple weeks to get off orientation. And the kid comes out to yard and, you know, there's like 4 or 5 guys walking with him, all laughing with him. And then a guy cold trailing him. Obviously, you know, the dude's got a knife. You know, I can already see what's going to happen. So I'm looking at the shot caller like, hey, you know, what the dude? And I start walking over there. And now the shot caller's like yelling at me, like, hey, come here, you know, hey, you know, and now everybody's looking, you know. I turned back. I'm like, dude, what the man? And by the time I turned around, the guy already had the kid, you know, stabbing him, you know, the kid screaming. And you could see the knife so big, you could see it coming out of his jacket, like out the other side. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's screaming for his mom, the kid, you know? Yeah. And I was like, dude. And they put the yard down. The kid was already dead. But, you know, the biggest thing that bothers me about that, and it happens all the time, is that those same guys that orchestrated all that are, you know, getting heroin or coke or whatever from these black guys on the down low. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's hypocritical, bro.
Of course. Dude.
You know, and I remember just sitting there in the snow, man, and I'm just looking at these guys and they're like laughing and I'm just like.
So this happened when it was snowing?
Yeah.
Is this at high desert prison now?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was years. It was just like, you just, it's just, yeah.
Did, what happened? What became of that? Did they get the guy?
Oh, yeah.
Did they ship the guys out?
Well, they sent him to the hole. They got busted for murder, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
then the guy that cut the locker, he gets busted too because they search all the cells. They're going to see the, you know, it just trickles down, you know?
So do those guys get another life sentence if you kill somebody and get caught for murder when you're already doing life?
Yeah, but they're probably like doing life without or just doing life thinking they're never getting out or just whatever. Yeah. Or they're just straight killers. You know, just doesn't, or they're just that, they're just really about it.
So, but before any of this happens, you finally put in work, you know, you beat up your cellie really bad. You get sent to your first AR. They call it.
But this was years later. Like I
know we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. I'm, you know,
this happened a lot. Like I was 40 something. I don't know, 42, 43. But, you know, before that, I went through a bunch of different prisons. You know, I went to Selena's Valley or whatever. But like a lot of people, what I've learned, me and my buddy talk about this a lot because he did a life sentence too. But, you know, like a lot of these guys like, you know, do whatever to go back to the shoe and just hang out and just stay back there. So they can hang out. Because it's really like, it's being back in the shoe, you're in Pelican Bay, you're single celled. Right. So you're away from all the bullshit. Right. You don't have to deal with it. They'd rather stab somebody or kill their cellies so they could be single cell and then stay back there.
Right.
So they don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Where other dudes will try to get away with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They'll try to get away with their stabbings or whatever so they could beat them or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
that shows you just how rough some of these places are and just like how maddening, you know, being in those conditions is. Like people would rather be isolated in the special housing unit because you could just get some privacy.
Oh, I mean, like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'd be happy when we went on lockdown a lot of the times. Like, oh, good. You know, you're just in there with your cellies, just kick back, work out, watch TV.
Yeah.
You know, but these guys would do that to get back there, to be around certain people so they could be recognized, so they could do whatever, or just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how dudes get made, you know, a lot of them.
When you were at Corcoran, when you went to the high level yard at Corcoran after you got out of the hole for the first time, did you have new respect for putting in that work?
Well, to me, this is the way I looked at it. I always looked at it like this. I think people think, oh, I'm so tough. I went, you know, I stabbed this dude 50 times and he didn't even know what was going to happen. To me, that's not tough. Like the old days or whatever, like, you know, it was different. Like, I think that to go up with somebody with a knife and just start stabbing them and think that's tough or think that's whatever, I think it's cowardly. The more I look at it now as I'm older, I mean, it'd be tough if you went up there and gave him a knife and you had a knife and said, okay, yeah, let's do this. That's tough.
Yeah.
You know, or like back in the day where you get two guns and say, hey, let's shoot this out.
Yeah, but my question is, did you have respect for, but you know, are you starting to gain respect within the ranks of the white group,
of course, everybody does in the beginning. You know, it's one of them things. Okay, yeah, this guy's a good dude. He did this or whatever. Like, you know, but you know, the more I look at it now, you know, I think it, you know, except like the sex offenders. I mean, they, you know, it just whatever. I just think that, you know, I don't think that's tough.
During the first stretch where you're doing 6 and you did basically day for day, right?
Yeah. I was maxed out my first 3 months.
And that, how do you get maxed out?
You just get trouble.
You lose all your good time.
Yeah, I only had like, I don't know, 6 years, 85%, what, 15% a good time? I was gone fast.
That's easy, right?
I think I actually was gone before I even got to Sentinella.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I got in fights at, you know, the reception center.
Were you on drugs this whole time? Or did you get clean when you went in?
No, well, there's drugs here and there, you know. You don't do a lot of drugs because it's just expensive. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. But there's here and there, it happens, comes through, people kick you down or whatever, you know.
So this is your first time being sober for a really long time.
Oh, yeah. I started gaining weight, you know. Like I was always a skinny kid, you know, was working out, you know.
Did you have any hustles in there?
I worked in the kitchen. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I used to make wine, you know, whiskey, all that stuff and do that.
Okay. So what else? Was there any other drama when you went to that higher level yard at Corcoran? Like did you keep getting in worse trouble or were you able to kind of just coast until you got out?
So I got, my cellie ended up being the shot caller a little bit after my other cellie left. And he was from Orange County and he was kind of like, so I kind of kicked back, you know what I mean? Because he knew I had 2 strikes. Yeah. So what happened was I almost got busted with coming out of the kitchen with knives because we were going to get in a riot and with the blacks. So a black dude went up in a white boy's cell and they took off on him over money or whatever. Right. And you can't do that. No. You can't do that. So, okay, we're going, you know, we're telling all the blacks, oh, it's cool, don't worry about it, you know, but we're all getting ready, you know? Yeah. So at Old Corcoran, they got these light covers and they're metal. They're like, you know, little metal, 2 little metal things that cover the light so it don't get broken. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm getting this, you know? So I'm up. So I was a cook, so we came in before everybody else and it was like me by myself and a couple of blacks or whatever. And I jump up on the grill, which is the grill, and rip it off the thing, you know, because it just comes off. Yeah. And I'm in the back stomping it down, you know, so I could put it down my pants. And the black's like, hey, what's going on? You know, like, what are you doing? And they're, you know, nothing. I'm just taking this. You know what? Yeah, but all that shit squashed. You know, they're like, you know, because one of the shot callers was in the kitchen. Like, I don't know, like, because they're starting to trip now.
Right.
Thinking, what's this kid grabbing this for, So I stomp it down, I put it in the thing, and I used to take the CTQ carts to the buildings. The CTQ cart is like, people that like on a land, they're sick, or they can't, come out of their cell or whatever. I used to take it to building. So I got this down my pants. But we used to get searched like every time coming out, like almost every time. They didn't always search us, but they would open the cart to see see if there's no a bunch of sugar or whatever in the cart.
Right.
And my buddy comes to the door from the yard, and I'm like, look, I'm coming out. It's CTQ carts. He's like, no, dude, they're gonna catch you. I'm like, I'm doing it. Like, I'm doing it. Like, I didn't care. I'm doing it. And so I'm pushing the cart out, and the cops were like talking to a sergeant. They weren't really paying attention. So I just walked by. I get a little down the way. I was like, hey, Curtis, get over here. And I'm like, oh.
And you got all these knives,
I got like
these new knives in your pants.
Like down my pants right here, And it's like, Curtis, get over here. What are you doing? We got to search the cart. I'm like, oh, So they searched the cart. They didn't search me.
Wow.
And my buddy's, walking to chow. I can see him because I told him as soon as you start walking to chow, I'm going to come out and I'll give it to you like in front of 4 Block or whatever. And he's like, dude, So I pass it off to him or whatever.
Wow.
But he's like, dude, you got 2 strikes, dude.
So getting caught with knives is a felony?
Oh, yeah. You'd be done. It's weapon stock.
Wow.
It's not knife. It's just metal at the time.
It's just metal, yeah.
But it's weapon stock.
Wow.
Yeah. So did the
riot kick off? You got
what ended up happening to, again, this wasn't really that serious of a yard. That's when I say that.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was the white boy just had to stab, that dude Selly had to stab the black dude. So he stabbed him, whatever.
Yeah. Ran him off.
Whatever. And that was it,
Right.
But, again, any other yard or, some crazy yard, it would have immediately been dealt with.
What was okay. So you made it through without catching another case. Your first stretch. Did you do anything productive? Did you think about like what you were going to do when you came home?
I got my GED.
Okay.
I got my GED.
Yeah. What did you plan on doing when you got out?
I'm not coming back to prison.
Okay. So you didn't. So you were not like the others, at least. That's how your mentality was like. Okay,
no,
I don't want to be around these
saying that.
guys.
I mean, I just I wasn't really just looking to really make a name for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just didn't care about, you know what I mean? I was just trying to get out and stay,
So there never any other close calls? Your first stretch?
Yeah, we got the house. We were hitting dope, and we just got rid of it all. Like the night before, and the gooners were there early in the morning.
Oh, so you guys
raided the house, and they were like, they're like, you lucky. I remember the gooners, you lucky man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we got everything out of there,
So do they raid your cell the way, like in SWAT gear, the way they raid a house on the streets?
They only do that like if they're going to come and cell extract you.
Right.
They'll come in all the gear, whatever.
Right,
This is just the goon squad comes, they just pull the door open.
Were you selling dope? Were you holding it for somebody?
We were selling it. We were getting it.
Wow.
So we had a friend that had his sister coming up. So me and my homeboy would send dope to her, and then he would go out to visit, and then he would give it to us,
What do you mean?
Like, so
she would pass it to him in the visiting?
She would give it to him in the visiting room, and then he would go home, and then he would have it, and then he would give it to us on the yard.
When you say go home, it sounds like you're talking about free people.
Oh, well,
just for people that know, real lifers, the cell is the house.
Yeah.
And when you go home, that means going back to your cell.
Yeah,
it's kind of a trip.
I even call my bunk, I just did it. My bed, my bunk still. I'm going I'm going to go sit on my bunk or hang out.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Sometimes I say that and I laugh, but
it's jail. No, I get it.
Like, what are you doing? I'm just sitting on my bunk, and I'm at home, in a real bed,
Wow. So you had a bunch of dope on you, got rid of it before the cops came?
Yeah. We didn't know they were coming, but, we got lucky, Luckily, we got rid of it all.
Right. Did you make some money while you were there?
Yeah, we made a little bit of money.
Did you use, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're back on drugs when you go to Corcoran.
Yeah, a little bit here and there,
Yeah. So, but then you get out. How old are you when you get out? It's 2002, right?
30 years old.
And you basically went right back to...
No, actually, I was doing good, man. I got a good job working for Miller Pipeline. We were, had, driving company trucks. It was a good job. It was a union job.
Yeah.
And I got a girlfriend, and I moved in with her, and then one day she brought meth home. And I'm like, she's like, I'm like, no, like I can't, like, you know. And but then she's buying it, and I don't want to pay for it, you know.
Right.
So I start selling it because I know a bunch of people. So I start selling it, you know, and I'm making money. I'm selling a lot, like a pound a day, you know.
A pound of meth?
Yeah, a day, you know. And then what happened was
just to tweakers or to dealers?
Just to everybody, you know, whoever, you know. And then
what was your key to, because that's a lot of weight. I mean, that's almost 500 grams. It's 448 grams,
dude. Like
that's a lot of, but that's a lot of customers.
No, it just depends if you're selling ounces or just little bits here and there, but it goes pretty fast, bro.
God, what is it about normal, like middle class people in Orange County that just you do meth like it's the way that we would smoke weed in Portland, Oregon? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's just
something about that.
At that time, everybody was doing it. You know, if you're on the streets or whatever, everybody's doing it. And then you got people that are doing it that are just normal people that are functioning drug addicts.
Right.
You know, that can
like
do it.
Like your father was.
Yeah, that can do meth and go to work or just whatever. They just taking care of their whatever.
Yeah.
But then one day I was drinking and I used it. And that was it. You know, I remember walking into my buddy's hotel room and he's like, look, he's back. Like he could see that I'm on it. And he's back. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never forget that. And then right away I was asking him, hey, I need a gun. He's like, oh God. Like, you know, he's like, no, dude. I'm like, I need a gun, bro. And then from there on, that was it, you know.
How long had you been out when you hit the pipe?
3 months.
Yeah.
About 3 months, dude, you know, and 5 months later, you know, I was back in the county jail.
You were jammed up.
Yeah.
Did your girlfriend not know or care that you had 2 strikes?
Well, she's
fresh out of prison.
She was just a normal person, really. She like used drugs here and there, but obviously she didn't know. But I left her immediately. You know, immediately I was gone. Yeah. You know, I never went back. The cops were looking for me because now I gave them a dirty test. And at that time, you know, you give a dirty test, it's a year. You're getting a year right off the bat. There's no like now they'll give you like 30 days in jail or whatever. Back then it was like, you're going back to prison for a year. Right.
Just for probation violation.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not the kind of person to turn myself in, you know? Yeah. It's like, come and get me. You know, that's how I've always been. And it was on from there, you know?
So you were just selling meth, hiding out?
Yeah, I was at this time
doing meth, obviously.
I was going from state to, you know, going to Idaho, dropping drugs off there, Lake Havasu, Arizona. Yeah. You know, just driving back and forth. And I would try to stay out of Orange County. I would stay for about 24 hours. Right. But I knew I couldn't stay longer than that, you know.
So you just come back to re-up and then take it to and then other states?
Off to Lake Havasu, and then from Lake Havasu, I'd go to Idaho, you know. And one day I stayed too long. Yeah. And I come out of the hotel room and unmarked cars, you know. Actually, it was a regular cop car that had his lights on. I didn't really know what he was doing at the time. Yeah. But it was like, turn this way, like something was going on. I didn't know. So I turned, go around him, pulled in the gas station, and unmarked cars just surrounded me. Yeah. And I'm looking at each one of them, and I'm like, I got a Glock 45 on my lap and a bunch of, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, God. And they left a little opening. So I took off. Got in a high-speed chase again.
So there's a felony right there. The Glock.
Well, the Glock, it's just done. Anything like right there at that point, it's over. You know, no matter what I do, I'm done. You know, a gun in the commission of a crime, it's just over, you know? So I'm in another high-speed chase. But this time I was like, I knew that I didn't want to hit nobody. Yeah. Because that's a violent strike, you know? So even though I know whatever, but in the back of my mind, I have a little bit more sense, like, don't hit nobody this time.
So you're taking off.
So I'm not going I'm going fast enough to kind of get away. I just wanted to get away and get rid of everything. So I turned here. I was by the Anaheim Stadium somewhere, and I pulled in this apartment complex, pull up, you know, drive up on the grass, jump out of the car, jump over a fence. There's a pit bull right there, and I'm like, oh.
Are you ditching the meth?
Yeah, but I'm on my way to do that, you know. But I jumped right in the fence with the pit bull. He's looking at me, and I'm like, jumped the other way, jumped over another fence, and I started dumping it in pools, like just getting rid of it, you know. I had a lot of it, and and I got the gun. So I get rid of all the dope, you know, and at this point I got the gun on me. I know I got to get rid of it. I'm like, I got to get rid of this gun. So there's helicopters already here because they already know I'm going to run.
Yeah.
I did it before. They know. So they had the helicopter already there. When they unmarked cars were there, the helicopter was there. And so I'm like walking on top of this fence. And when the helicopter light went off of me, I balanced the gun on a tree branch, jumped off the thing, jumped over another wall, and there was a bunch of cops there. Get down, it was over. And so the next day, the cops pull me out of the, you know, I go to jail.
Yeah.
You know, the cops pull me out, and they're like, hey, you know, we found the gun. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? I'm like, I'm out of here. I just walked out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done. I walked out. And so what happened was, in the police report, the girl that lived at the house was picking lemons out of her tree, and the gun fell out of the tree and landed in the bucket with the lemons. You know?
Oh. And then she called the cops?
Yeah, of course, because they were just there the night before, you know?
Damn.
But, you know.
They have your prints on it?
Well, I don't think those guns keep prints on them.
Oh,
those
really?
Glocks, yeah, something to do. They didn't have no prints on it.
Okay.
But I'm just glad, you know, that I thought about it, like, what if a kid would have found that, you know? Like, if a kid would have found that gun, whatever, climbing, you know, that could have been bad. But, yeah, I was done, dude.
Okay, hold on. I hate all of this right now. My lawyer brain is like so pissed off. They didn't have any proof that it was your gun. Did they have any dope?
Yeah, they found 3 ounces.
3 ounces of dope?
Something like that, 3 ounces. Because they went back to my hotel room too.
Oh, I see.
So they knew where I was staying. They were watching it.
I see. So you had product at the hotel?
Yeah. They found all sorts of stuff.
So you had a lot of meth on you. Okay. Yeah.
I just picked up. I was ready to just drop something off, and I was taking back off out of state, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So they basically charge you with all that gun, meth.
Payo sheet. They found the scale, the payo sheet.
What is the payo sheet? Peyote?
Like, no, people that owe me money.
Oh. I thought payo was
payo sheet,
slang, you know? For peyote. Yeah, I'm like, oh wow, this guy was he was into peyote dealing.
And then I was with this girl, and she came to stay the night with me, and she had like one of those crates, full of birth certificates. She was into the fraud thing.
I see.
And it was just full of, you know, whatever. And she split before that. And so all that stuff was there. So I got charged with all that stuff.
Oh, so you took the fraud charge too. So
you
have all these felonies, and you don't have a paid lawyer. Why don't you get a paid lawyer? Don't you have some money from all that meth?
Yeah, but it doesn't. At that point, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to do anything.
You didn't want to waste your money on a lawyer.
They're not going to be able to do anything, dude.
So what are you facing now?
It's 107 years to life. At the beginning, I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, you know, like, whatever. But then I remember after a while, I was just like, you know, like, because I didn't even call my mom. My mom was calling me every day, and I just ignored her, like, to the point where I had to give my phone to my homegirl, like, here, I don't want this phone no more. I got a different one. Do you know what I mean? And I just, let everybody down, dude.
Yeah.
My mom, my daughter, you know. And, yeah, dude, it was the weirdest thing when they said, okay, I knew it was going to happen, but once I got the life sentence, it was like, man, it's over.
How do you even describe what getting sentenced to life in prison is like?
You know, it's hard to describe it.
It's got to be surreal, right?
Yeah, it's like, you know, you're with all these other people in court, and they're crying about, I got to do 60 days, and, you know, I remember that, just hearing these guys going like, you know, it's just crazy, dude. Knowing you're going to get life, just going to court, and just, you know, and then plus being, you know, in the IRC where you're locked down 23 hours a day, you just, you know, it was terrible, dude. It was it was one of the worst things I went through.
Yeah.
You know, knowing I had a second chance, and I ruined it, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and once I got to prison, I was okay. You know, because you're out and about. You know, you could do whatever. But I just remember being depressed, you know, like just, it was horrible.
Yeah. And the prisons are so overcrowded at this time because it's a bunch of guys like you, third strikers.
Yeah. But the thing about that is I was always in a cell anyways. So I was never in these gyms where you got 3 bunks, or I never had to deal with that.
No, you were in high level
but
security.
this is the overcrowding. So we were in the cells. I was in a cell with just another person.
Yeah.
But then the gym on the yard was converted into bunk beds.
Right.
With 3 bunks on a bed. So, it was overcrowded, but I didn't have to deal with the really bad part of that.
Right.
I just, being on a yard with a bunch of people, that's...
Why do you get your own cell?
Because, I'm a lifer.
You're doing life.
Or just whatever. You're level 4. If you're a level 4 inmate, you can't be in a gym. You can't be in a dorm. You can't do none of that. That was over 3 months.
Into your first stretch.
Actually, it was over when I went to prison because of my crime.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? At that point, at that time, I never had to experience that because I was automatically level 3 because of my crime.
Right.
For the shooting.
Yeah.
My points were high.
Yeah.
I never had to deal with that.
Yeah. So it's just by the nature of your crime that dictates where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And what level security you're going to be.
Yeah.
So now you're level 4 straight away because you're a lifer.
Well, I was level 4 when I paroled.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was already level 4.
But when you got in for your first, now you think you got life.
Yeah.
You got 28. You said
28 to life. Yeah.
28 years to life. So with a sentence like that, back in the day, that meant you were doing life.
Yeah, that was it.
If you, just because you had like a minimum, which is 28 years, if you had life after it, they weren't paroling those guys at all, right?
It's not happening, bro.
So 28 is just kind of like a formality. That was like when you go before the parole board. Is that how that works?
Yeah, you have to go to board to get out at that point.
Is 28 years the
7 to life, 10 to life?
But what is the 28 for? Is that the minimum?
Well, that was the minimum they could give me. So you get 25 to life for the crime.
Yeah.
And then the enhancements was like a year for the high-speed chase because I had a prior, a year for the gun, and then a year for something else I can't remember.
Right.
So that's why it's 28 to life.
But do you go before, when you have that number, do you still get your day before the parole board?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you got life, you still go to board, but they were just denying everybody.
Right.
Nobody was getting found suitable.
Right. And now that's all changed.
Oh, that's all changed.
Could you tell us about that?
Okay, so I forget when it was, around 2013 maybe, they came out with this thing called Insight.
Uh-huh.
And what happened was a bunch of lifers got together and sued to the federal court over that. Hey, they're not letting us out, but they're just denying us for everything.
Wow.
Oh, third biggest thing was you don't got insight. You're being denied. You don't got insight. You don't have this. You don't have that, And then lawyers and lifers started suing over that.
Uh-huh.
And it slowly started to change in 2013.
Oh, wow.
So
that's what they would tell you at the board?
Yeah. You don't have no insight.
What is what is that supposed to mean?
Okay. So so insight is this. Okay. I'll give you an example. I had to write an insight paper.
Right.
Part of the board packet.
Right.
Before you go to board, you have to submit a packet.
Yeah.
Insight paper, relapse prevention plans.
Yeah.
Where you're going to go, parole plans, all your groups and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And insight papers, what it does is it tells you, and it just kind of, you want to run them through how you became who you were.
Yeah.
And how you changed. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, my causative factors, was I was a drug addict, criminality, substance abuse, whatever. So like my dad, when my dad started me cocaine, a causative factor is I became a drug addict at a young age. Mm-hmm. I adopted criminality. I adopted all these character defects or whatever.
Right.
And you got to understand that. So you got to be able to pinpoint that stuff out in your insight paper.
Right.
And how you became who you were and then who you are now.
Right.
And
so the board was denying everybody's insight papers.
Well, they were and a lot of these dudes should have been let out.
Yeah.
They died in prison because, whatever.
Yeah.
Because
power, human beings are the judges and the prosecutors and the people sitting on the parole board. They're just human beings, and humans are just irresponsible when they have power over other people. It's a defect in our evolution. You know what I mean? So they had to be sued, and they had to have the federal government step in.
Then when you get found suitable, the governor wasn't signing it because still the governor's got to sign it.
Oh, so the governor has to sign off on every lifer who's getting paroled?
Every lifer that's gotten out in the state of California has to be signed off by the governor.
Oh, wow. So
And a lot of them-
Schwarzenegger was giving you no love.
Well, they don't want to sign. They're not going to be responsible for you getting out because as far as they're concerned, you're going to get out and you're going to go right back to doing what you were doing. They don't want that on their, conscience.
Yeah, and if you kill somebody and it comes out in the news that Schwarzenegger
signed it or whatever,
signed off on Chris, and then he goes and kills somebody, you look bad.
That's another thing. They you got to prove to them you're not going to be a threat to society.
Yeah.
So
it's almost an impossible standard of proof.
It was.
Yeah.
It was until, they started, changing and then people started practicing. So I was lucky to have a cellie that would help me kind of understand all this stuff. Because I went to a ton of groups, man. In 2015, I started doing all sorts of groups. CGA, Victims Impact, Houses of Healing, just everything. You know? And I spent hours and hours and hours in these groups at night. We'd go for an hour like on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the group was being held. Yeah. I got into all that stuff. And I never in my life thought I'd be able to get out through the board. I just didn't think it was possible because it was just it was a hard thing to do. Like to go up in there and explain to these people how you've changed. Yeah. And I never thought I was going to get found suitable.
How many people are in a parole board hearing? Like how many people are on the board?
You got, it just depends. Like I had 2.
Oh,
I had 2.
That's nothing.
And then my lawyer, Yeah. Oh, it's tough, dude. It just depends who you have. It depends who you have, It used to be like 3 or whatever, but it just depends, who's available at the time. Right. But, so many people are going to board now and getting out, that, it was just,
Yeah, well, the pendulum has swung the other way. The society was changing around this time. The attitudes towards incarceration and around drug addiction and how that causes all of this criminality. So that the history was in your favor too, a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's talk about when you went in. So tell us about this second stretch. You ended up doing 20 years on this second stretch before you got paroled.
Yeah.
Where did you go? Where did you first go?
I went to Selena's Valley.
Selena's Valley. What is that like? What was that
level 4. Like? It was crazy,
How so?
Well, when I got to that yard, I didn't really know what was going on, but there was a lot of crazy stuff going on with the whites. Like the shot caller of the yard sold our table to the paisas for $1 gram of dope. Like our table where we hang out. Yeah. Like there was some weird stuff going on. And I remember some of the Mexicans would come up to me and go, "Hey, you got to get out of here because this yard's in trouble." I'm like, "What?" Like, again, I really don't like whatever. You know what I mean? So I remember I was there for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months. And I wanted to stab this black guy.
Over what?
Because he disrespected this old man. That was a good dude. Like he was just an older dude. He disrespected him, yelling at him or whatever. They're on lockdown. So I'm like, I sent word out to the yard, like, I told somebody in the building and they went out to the yard because at this point, really nobody's running the yard as far as I'm concerned.
It's chaos. That's bad.
Whatever.
It's bad when people are running the yards.
They are, but they're not. So you got a bunch of dudes running around like, I don't know what's going on. Anyways, what happened was they called me out to the yard like, hey, you can't do that. There's a war back there going on with the white boys from C yard and this yard. I'm like, what do you mean? They go, yeah, anybody that comes from this yard, they're killing them. Holy. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, that's what kind of stupid goes on these, these prisons, dude.
So why were you not allowed to stab the black guy?
Well, because it would start a riot, and then
I see
all these guys that obviously been on this yard too long or a part of what was going on, that knew what was going on and wasn't dealing with it. They're going to go back there and they're whatever. They're in trouble.
I don't know what whatever.
Well, they're in trouble from being in that yard too long. All these guys that are there, they're involved in whatever was going on and they didn't deal with it. So I guess what happened was there was a riot before I got there with the blacks. Mm-hmm. So the C yard sent a kite out saying, hey, you guys got to get off the blacks again. They didn't do it. So all these guys on this yard are in trouble.
Because they didn't make a war on the blacks.
They didn't deal with it.
Wow.
And
so everybody that was, all the whites that were going on to the other yard were getting killed? And did they actually?
Well, they would try. Yeah, one guy got killed. One guy actually did.
Wow.
I can't remember his name. I want to say Dagwood. Dagwood actually got killed back there over that.
Wow. On the yard or in his cell?
In a cell. Because you go in the cell, in the hole, you're in the cell.
Yeah.
You're dealt with, you're only going into the cages with you and your cellie on the yard. At that time, they call them the dog kennels.
Yeah.
And his cellie killed him.
Oh my God.
I don't know exactly how he killed him, but he killed him,
Yeah.
And then, so then the white boys are like, okay, well now we want you in charge of this building or whatever. I'm like, yeah, all right. And then,
so you were actually given the keys to the yard?
Not the yard, but that building.
Okay. What's the difference?
Well, you got 5 buildings on a yard.
I see. Okay.
Okay. There's a shot caller at each building.
Okay.
That reports to the guy that runs the yard.
Right.
I guess but he's not running it's one of them things. You know, I'm like, yeah, okay. So then I find out that the guy was running it before me. There was a few child molesters there, and he was making them pay money instead of dealing with it.
Oh, that's what I would have done. But anyways, I'm all about money.
But in California, you can't do that.
No.
How
do child molesters slip in on a general population?
Well, it was back then. It's
like a mistake.
It was just it's not. It's just different. This is just when the SNY is starting. Are you familiar with the SNY yards? So the SNY yards are like PC yards.
Right.
So you got the main line, you got the SNY yard.
Right.
So these guys could slip through. It just depends on where you go and who's really running everything.
Right. Okay, so you found out this guy was...
It's just like how it's structured. Every yard's different.
Right.
These guys have fake paperwork or whatever, or just whatever how it is, they make it through. Right. Or you got some guy that's like really not checking the paper or knows, but just making them pay instead.
Right. So what happened when you found out about this guy that was letting the child molesters?
Now it's like me, these other guys. So I'm in a building with like maybe 7 whites.
Yeah.
Most of them are old. They're really not about nothing.
Yeah.
So now I'm stuck with all this, So they let us, we were in lockdown. And they let the whites out to shower and they let us run around or whatever. Just relaxed. Like they, they do this. They like ease up and they relax.
Yeah.
And the guy was up in the cell sleeping.
The sex offender.
Yeah. So I just went in there with a razor blade and cut his face up and shut the door and it's gone.
Right. How do you shut the door to somebody else's cell?
Well, because it's just
just sliding.
It's not a 180 cell where they control the door.
Right. Oh wow.
So you could like crack your door.
Yeah.
And this guy didn't come out to shower. He stayed in there and he was sleeping. And I'd like to get away with things. You know what I mean? That's just a lot of people, they just don't care or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so I went in there, cut him up, and I left the cell. And I shut the door,
Yeah.
So they go by afterwards because the cellie comes in and the cellie's now, well, what's going on, They put the foot, whatever. The yard's already down. We're already locked down.
But he didn't tell on you?
No.
Wow.
So they take him out or whatever. Yeah. So now, whatever. And
did you dump the razor?
I flushed it right there.
Yeah.
I washed my hand off, flushed it, and that was it.
What kind of razor?
Just a little razor with a toothbrush. You know what I mean? Just a quick little. I just had to get rid of him.
So you're just marking him.
Just whatever. He's gone. Now he's gone. He's out there. So,
right.
You know what I mean? I did my job. You know what I mean?
And then you got away with it.
Yeah. I went home and
no cameras picking you up.
There's no cameras there at that time.
Wow.
Now they got him everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But so then one of my homeboys comes from another yard. You know what I mean? He's like, dude, you got to go to the shoot. You got to get out of here. You're a lifer. Like you gotta, but this time, all this stuff's going on. I'm seeing like whatever, but now I have to stab somebody in front of the cops. They want me to get the guy that was running the building before.
And allowing those child molesters
in front of the cops.
Right.
Which would be a violent strike, which would be done. I wouldn't be out right now.
Right.
Because my board date wasn't until 2031. I wasn't even supposed to go to board till 2031.
Right.
And I'm thinking in the back of my head, and all this stuff's going on.
Right.
I might be in trouble. I might not. I've been on the yard. You know what I'm saying? Because of what's going on there. Are they getting me back there to kill me? Or or whatever, everything going to be good? I'm not taking that chance.
Yeah. Are you, no, you're a lifer. So why do you have to take an order from the shot callers?
It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Do you know what I mean? If this guy came from Sea Yard. But essentially what he was saying was like, dude, you got to go do a shoot term.
Right.
You're alive. You got to go. Like, does that mean I'm just going to go do my term and I'm cool? Or I'm going to go back there and they're going to kill me? You know what I mean? Because that's what they do. Sometimes they'll say, hey, you got to do this. And then you'll go back there and they'll kill you.
Right. So they're luring you back to the shoe so they can kill you there.
They want to talk to you or whatever the case may be.
And the only way they could kill you when they're in the shoe is when you're in the dog kennel with your cellie.
No, that's not true at all.
Oh, do they let you out together in the shoe?
Like in Corcoran shoe, you have a cellie.
Yeah.
Pelican Bay, they switch to whatever. Right. Everything's different. But like your cellie will make a rope out of the sheets.
Yeah.
You know, have you heard of that one?
No.
Where they braid the rope, they make a sheet, they cut strips, they braid it, make it a rope.
Right.
Use it for a bag or whatever, or use it to kill your cellie.
Yeah.
Just put it around his neck and kill him.
But is there any, like when you're in the shoe at Salinas Valley, are there
Salinas Valley doesn't have a shoe, it's just an ad seg. So the only shoes in the state of California are Corcoran and Pelican Bay.
I got you.
And I think Tehachapi. I'm pretty sure Tehachapi has one too.
Okay. So, and there, do you have contact with other, can you have physical contact with other inmates or just your cellie?
Well, you're just your cellie, but you know, there's kites, you fish with everybody or whatever. But you see them in the dog cages, but you're just with your cellie. So
what do you, now you're in a sticky situation because you don't want to stab somebody in front of the guards. So
I definitely don't ever want to do that.
How did you handle that? Like, what are you supposed to do in this position?
I dropped out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, I was just thinking about everything, and I'm just like, this is stupid, dude.
Yeah.
You know, they got the white boys selling the tables for dope for the yard. You got all this stuff happening, and it's just nonsense, dude.
Yeah.
To me, it just became nonsense. I was older. I just didn't,
What year was that?
2004, maybe.
Oh, so you dropped out early. This is like only a couple years into your stretch.
Yeah.
So when you're a dropout, what does that mean, and where do you have to go? Do they have to isolate you, send you to?
No, they just send you to one of those S&Y yards.
Okay.
Which are crazier than the main line.
No
because
way.
Now you got no rules. There's nobody running nothing.
Oh, right. So you're on a yard with a bunch of sex offenders and gang dropouts.
And the problem is this. The problem is that you don't have nobody running nothing. So usually you're just worrying about the white boys. Maybe every once in a while you got a black or whatever. Yeah. But now it's like free. It's like YA. Right. I don't know if you know what the youth authority is. It's just open game.
Right. Right.
You can stab anybody, do anything you want. You want to kill your cellie. You don't have to ask. You do whatever you want. So there's no structure.
Wow. So you found that even worse in some ways.
It was worse.
What happened on that yard?
Everybody's killing their cellies. Just people are getting stabbed all the time, or some dude just doesn't want to be on the yard no more, so he's just stabbing a dude to go.
Wow.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and now that you have so many people that are dropping out, it's like the SNY yards become like the mainline yards.
They ended it. They just ended it a couple months ago.
Is that right?
They're putting everybody back together because it just failed.
Wow. So, but now you're going to have a bunch of sex offenders getting stabbed.
Now everybody. So now it's just going to be a big war. Whoa. So you got 75% of the population became S&Y.
Right.
You know what I mean? All these dudes that were on these level 4 yards that dropped out or whatever because it just, whatever happened.
Yeah.
Like the level 1s, the 2s, and the 3s, they were never really they never really had to really go through it to the point where they're like, I'm cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is stupid.
Yeah.
Now, though, they're just going to throw everybody back in together. So now for the next... Now it's going to be a war.
Right back where they started.
It's just going to be a war.
It's going to be like the 70s again.
I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not in there. I don't really care anymore, but I know that it's just going to be a war.
So you're about to see more violence in California prisons.
Wow. These dudes, these level 4 guys that are S&Y still that had 500 points or whatever. I know a bunch of them that still have 500 points. Mm-hmm. They're going to put them back on these yards.
Yeah.
And they're trying to go home or whatever. And it's just going to be, it's going to be a mess.
How long were you on these yards for? The level 4 S&Y yards.
Another, 7 years?
Wow. That's a long time. And where were you? Was that all at Salinas or did you get shipped out?
Salinas, Kern Valley, High Desert again.
Yeah.
What
was the difference between Kern Valley and I know that's a tough place. I always read about people getting stabbed at Kern Valley and High Desert. What was the worst and the best prison? Which one did you like the most?
The best prison I ever liked was High Desert.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was.
Why?
Because I had it made there. So the cops are white.
Right.
It was different.
So when the cops are white in those really remote areas, they're friendlier to the white
well,
inmates,
it was just all the prisons I were at were like, in the Central Valley with, there were a lot of Mexican cops or just whatever, black cops. But, they called, High Desert the White House.
Right.
Because it's all white cops.
Right.
It changed. It started changing though as soon as I got there because the feds came in and the cops got in a bunch of trouble.
Right.
There was a big old investigation or whatever. But there was still that, all the older cops.
Right.
They were just cool.
So those are the cops that'll bring you in stuff, maybe.
I'm not going to say all that, but you know what I mean? Like,
well, come on. Yeah. Everybody's got cell phones in there. You're not keystering in a big iPhone.
The cell phones, the cops, the free staff bring those in too, just the regular free staff. Very rarely. I mean, cops do it too. But
when did you see when did you see the cell phones really starting to come into play in prison? What year?
Well, as soon as they started becoming cheap.
Yeah.
As soon as they started becoming cheap, but then they started putting up the blockers on the building, behind each building, they had a cell phone blocker.
Oh, so they wouldn't
But the problem is that it only worked with certain phones because if you got 5G, so here's how it works. You got the blockers up around the prison.
Yeah.
Okay. The older cell phones to get signals, they go out this way.
Right.
And they get blocked.
Right.
But then the 5G goes up or the 4G or whatever, how it works. You know what I mean? I don't know the exact nature of it, but it didn't matter.
Wow. When did you see 5G?
I don't think I've seen the 5G. I think the 5G came out just when I got out,
Did you have a phone in prison?
I've used them, but I tried to stay away from them for the most part because at this time when they were becoming abundant, I knew I might go to board and it's like a 10-year denial.
Right. If you get found with a cell phone. Because that goes on your paperwork.
Oh yeah. They're like, because they're only used for one thing. That's the way it's like having a ghost gun.
Yeah.
A ghost gun is used for what? So it can't be tracked. It's used to kill people. I mean,
right.
Phones are used for what in prison? To run criminal activities.
Right.
Sell drugs. I mean, sure, some people just get on to talk to talk to their family, but for the most part, it's for criminal activity.
Right.
Manipulation, whatever.
People are directing things on the street. Yeah.
And then you still got, and then you got, more gangs on the S&Y yards now than on the main line, really. You got the GBGs, you got
who are the GBGs?
The gay boy gangsters.
Oh, tell us about them. I wouldn't want to mess with the gay boy gangsters, bro.
I learned a long time ago not to mess with a gay dude. You know what I mean?
No, because they got in prison they have the violence of a man, but the scorn of a woman. Yeah. That's what a gay gangster.
I remember on my first, I didn't say that, but when I first got to Corcoran, this was a couple years down the road, there was this gay dude. This is before, because they got ran off the line a little bit later. They got kicked off the yards because they were causing too much problems or whatever.
Drama queens.
But this one dude was, this older guy, he's been around a long time, tough guy, slapped this gay dude on the butt playing handball. Hey, good game. The gay dude took off on him and beat the shit out of him.
Wow.
And that dude never lived it down. So in my mind, I seen that. I'm like, excuse me, how you doing? Have a good day. I'm just staying away.
No, there's no winning with a gay guy. But, you either beat up a gay guy or you got beat up by a gay guy.
And they're slicing dudes, stabbing dudes, and
Wow.
But and then you got the other white gangs, and then the Mexican gangs.
Yeah.
That all started up on the S&Y side, and they finally ended it. They said, this ain't working.
That's really crazy. So it's really just going back to how it started. Everybody in one big pile of they're starting over. It's going to be like the 1960s and 70s again.
It's just starting over. Now they just said, this ain't working. Which is, now it's just going to be a big old mess because you have more than half the system that did that.
Did you have to stab anyone in this second stretch?
No.
Okay.
No, I just, I cut a dude. That was about it, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Did you have any kind of, being a lifer, did you have any... lifers usually have different levels of respect, right? Like, did you hang out with other lifers? Was that your clique?
Well, you just hang out. Usually hang out with who you get along with.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Who you're compatible with, bro. Like, I made a lot of friends later on down the road that, were Mexican or whatever,
But did you feel bitter? Like the reason that I tried to never talk to lifers, except for my cellie, who was a lifer and just a really good dude, and he had made his peace with never getting out. But I tried to avoid lifers because A, I thought they were dangerous, but B, it's like I I'm thinking, putting myself in those shoes, it's like, I don't want to talk to anybody that's going home. Like, that's going to make me like angry and hateful and bitter and maybe violent. Like, did you feel that way when you were around guys like whistling through prison? Like, hey, I'm doing 3 years.
Well, no,
I'm a tourist.
My cellie was a lifer. On my first, my last cellie I had for a couple of years, he was a lifer. He was struck out, You don't talk about it getting out around them a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of be.
But did you feel when you were around guys with short time, thinking you were still doing the rest of your life in prison, did you feel angry? Did you feel bitter? Or did you make peace with it?
I would just be more like thinking, like, I would see guys come back and forth, like 3 or 4 times and thinking, dude, like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, like, really? But, people are going to, they're going to have to learn their own way.
But did you feel bitter at people going home?
Not really. I did, but I didn't. I mean, I can't say that I felt bitter. I mean, I didn't want to, but sometimes I would get mad at dudes, seeing them come back and forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're ruining it, I didn't really feel bitter.
Did you forgive yourself for what you did to end up there?
I think that, some of the stuff that I did, it is what it is, bro. Like, I do feel bad, bro. I created a lot of victims, bro. I hurt a lot of people, and you're never going to be able to forget about that, The more that I learned about myself, the more that I, understood about, victims' impact, how, like, I'll give you an example. When I shot those guys, I hurt their families.
Mm-hmm.
The first responders had to come and deal with it.
Right.
The bullets are going through other people's houses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You start learning about all this. You're not only hurting these people, you're hurting the community. You're hurting everybody financially, emotionally. You're wrecking families.
Yeah. What about your own family?
Yeah, of course. My mom, she was devastated.
Yeah.
My other part of the family, I don't know if they really care, but
your dad's side?
No, my dad's side, they were on drugs too,
Yeah. But
I'm just talking about other parts of my family. I mean, I didn't hear from most of them for 20 years.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they just, I know though, it really hurt my mom.
Yeah. What about your daughter?
Of course, so when I was at Kern Valley, my daughter's mom got killed,
Oh, no, I don't know.
In Lake Havasu, she got killed. So what happened was she had a boyfriend and shot her in the face with birdshot, trying to leave to take my daughter to school, and didn't kill her, but it blinded her, like, wrecked her face,
He shot her on purpose?
Yeah. Through the car windshield, it's just some big,
what?
Domestic violence, whatever.
Okay.
Some messed up dude,
Yeah.
You got some dudes that will hurt women like that. She didn't die from that, but they put her on opiates and she ended up dying from the opiates. She OD'd. No. But yeah, Man. So my daughter ended up going to live with her grandparents.
Right.
Yeah. And, she turned out great, luckily.
She came to visit you every now and then?
No, I never seen her.
Wow.
I wrote her, though, every week. I got to talk to her now and then, but, no.
So for 20 years, you didn't see your own daughter?
No. Or my mom.
Wow. And did you tell them, like, no visits?
No. It just, it's hard for, families to bring people up to visit.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
It takes a lot.
That's stressful. You got to go get a room. You got to drive, God knows where to visit somebody.
Yeah. You have to drive 10 hours.
A lot of families do it.
Yeah.
A lot, but, mine, no.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. So that's, was there ever a point where you lost hope? You said, yeah, I'm not getting out of here. Or did you maintain that?
No, I knew,
spark?
Like, when I first got my life sentence, it was over, but you just adapt to it. You have to, and then you get to prison and you work out, you get your packages and you just go through the days and try to be happy, you end up just getting used to it.
And you said you got off opioids. Well, okay. Yeah. Tell us about that. You were going through, you had knee problems I found this fascinating. They started during the opioid epidemic of the mid 2000s.
It was in prison.
There was a prison opioid epidemic. Tell us about that.
They were just anybody that had pain, they were putting you on morphine, tramadols, Neurotins, whatever.
Just without even
blinking. Hey, you got pain, like I can't deal with it, here.
And so you were hooked on opioids.
Yeah.
You had knee pain, and so they started prescribing you.
And it wasn't really that bad. I was just working the system like everybody else, just being a drug addict.
Getting free pills.
Yeah. Started selling them at first and started using them. And then next thing you know, I'm strung out on them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brutal. How long did that last?
Probably 5 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long
I was on
time.
methadone for 3 years.
Is that from coming down off of the first pills they gave you?
Well,
or you become hooked on methadone?
They gave methadone for pain.
Wow. So you're just a methadone addict.
Yeah, but now, I love that stuff. That stuff was great, you know? But, God, it's just terrible to come off of. Now that I'm totally clean, I just feel great, though. It takes a long time, though, to come off of methadone. Like, it takes a really long time before you're, like, not moving around.
Yeah.
You're not, you know what I mean? It took a really long time.
Did people OD?
Yeah. A couple people OD.
Yeah. That's crazy.
The thing is there wasn't fentanyl in it, so it wasn't, and they weren't getting a lot of it, but some dudes would, yeah. Because they had the patches, the fentanyl patches in there.
No.
Like they would put them on your skin.
Right.
Like the guys that were really in pain, they'd give them the patches.
Right.
And what would happen is you cut it open, and it's like a gel. And you could cut it in squares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You sell a square for $100 or whatever. I did it one time. Like me and my cellie, like I knew this dude that was in a wheelchair, and I'm like, I want to try it. I'm on tramadols at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I want to try this, And I did it before I went to school. I was in vocation behind the wall. And I get back there, I'm just like, I thought I was going to OD. Like, I started throwing up. I told the teacher, like, I got to go, I don't feel good. Went home and just like passed out. But
so fentanyl patches.
Yeah, the patches, but it's more. Wow. Yeah, but it was like it's not like the powder is now.
No, I know.
Now it's just like coming from China. It's just straight poison. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's some people say. But yeah, I did it one time.
And then you got off of that, and then there was meth involved in this stretch, right?
Well, yeah. So I got off of all that because they took me off the methadone, and it was just like I was just felt terrible. So I was doing whatever I could. Because if I did meth, it would stop.
Yeah.
It would stop the withdrawal, whatever. Or you just wouldn't feel it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I started selling that. So there was so much of it there. I was walking around with like, I don't know, I had like an ounce inside of me all the time. Like up, you know what I mean? I had an ounce keister all the time. I'd walk around with it like that.
You walk around with an ounce of meth in your ass?
Yeah. It was crazy, dude. Remember, because I was pretty healthy, like, even though I was on the opiates, I was working out, I was eating good or whatever. But I remember I walk around the corner one day and my buddy's like, dude, he's my homeboy. He's like, it looked like you just came off the streets. I was so sucked up.
Right. Holy.
And I tried to get this job. It was just when I finished the electrical vocation, they had this work crew that was building new medical facilities behind all the yards. And they needed electricians. Yeah. And I tried to get with the job there. Yeah. And I knew a CO from Old Corcoran, and he was like cool with me. Like I would be coming through the work change with, Kansas tobacco on my foot, inside my boot, just right inside the boot where you take it off. Yeah. But I always knew he was there, and he was always cool with me, like, cause I knew him from years ago, you know what I mean? And he would just let me go through. Oh, go ahead, Curtis, like whatever. Yeah. And I go, hey, I need you to get me a job over here. And he's like, I tried to get you a job, but they said that you're the biggest mule in the yard. Like, you know what I mean? He goes, I told him like this, well, if he's getting away with it, good for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he would let me just walk through work or whatever, you know? Yeah. And then it just went all bad. People owe money, and then, you start whatever. All this stuff starts happening,
Who was your connect? Who were you getting?
From the Northerners.
Right. So they were the ones really getting the weight in.
A lot of them were. Well, then we had this other guy that was white that we were doing it like through the, I told you, the watch office, and not the watch office, but administration that's out of the prison. Like we had the guy working out there. Yeah. Or tobacco was a big thing, like a lid of tobacco is like, if you take a Folgers jar off, like the top of the Folgers jar, you pack that with tobacco, that's $100.
Right. And then you could sell those sticks for $7, $10.
No, that's like $4 or $5.
But still, you make a killing off of it.
Yeah. But I was gone, dude. I was like on the streets again.
Wow.
And then
so you were as high in prison as you could be on the streets.
At that time, when the level 2,
wild.
God, it was crazy, bro. Like I was like every day, like I'd wake up in the morning, I'd take it out of me and go in the bathroom. You got to hide because now I'm in a pod for the first time in my life.
Right. You're sharing space with
people. So you got dudes in there that will tell on you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or don't want it around or whatever. So you got to be, I'd go in the bathroom and do a shot and take off to school.
How do you do meth there in prison?
I had an outfit.
So you had a rig?
Yeah. I had my own.
Damn. So you're just using that to shoot real quick?
I'd shoot it up real quick and wrap it up real good again and fucking out the door, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Sometimes that's cool. I'd even pull it out and go in the bathroom and have somebody watch, pull it out and do it there too, you know?
Oh, dude, I can't believe that. You're a full-on junkie in a place that's supposed to like have security.
Yeah.
It's just chaos.
It was crazy, bro.
Wow. Did you ever have any problems over like the money that people owed you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's essentially what ended up happening. You know, some people owed money, they weren't paying. And then I was like pressuring them. And then they knew I had a knife and then I was gone. They dropped kites. Like A12s.
Is that like a snitch kite?
Yeah. And then I took off on this one dude because he told on me.
Yeah.
So he had my house hit and I took off on him, got in a fight with him.
Yeah.
Then when I went to the program office, then that's when people that, you know, the people that owe you money, they're like informants or whatever, like confidential informants. Right. They start, this guy, this. So if you get 3 people to say that, you know, they owe you money or whatever.
For meth, they
got to get you out of the prison.
Right.
So I went to the hole, and then that's when I was just like, and then I woke up, it was my daughter's birthday, and I'm just like, fuck. I just don't want to do this no more. I'm done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You ran out of wind.
I was never getting out. In my mind, I was still never getting out, but I just didn't want to die in prison being a scumbag, man. Right. Being a drug addict. And I started reading the Bible a lot, and God saved me, man.
That was what, 2015?
Yeah.
What year did that law change, or that? What year did basically you have hope now from the change of the law that I could get out of here?
2017, I think they passed that law,
which is
Prop 57.
Okay, tell us about Prop 57.
So essentially for the 3 strikers, I mean, there's a bunch of laws in there that changed, but essentially for the 3 strikers is what it says. If you got 15 years or more in, and you can go to the board, you can get out no matter how much time you got.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it matter if your 3rd strike was violence or not?
If you're violent, no.
Okay. But for non-violent.
But I'm a non-violent 3rd striker.
Yeah. So
even though my controlling case, the 3 strikes, I shot 2 people, which is violent. The case I got busted for now is nonviolent.
Right.
So, they start talking about it. In the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, there's no way I'm going to make it through board. Like, just impossible,
Right.
But a couple years go by, and then I get the slip. Just like during COVID.
So you, first of all, the prisons must have been just, how gossip is in prison, right? Just anything like, hey, they're going to give a 15% more time cut, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So when this thing came down, everybody must have been talking like, hey,
a lot of people
I got a
started
chance.
getting out. A lot of people started, hey, you're leaving, like not the non-lifers.
Yeah.
Hey, you're out of here. You're out of here. They took 6 months off of this sentence, a year off of this sentence.
So people were just getting wrapped up.
Yeah, people were just, getting out. And then, for me, I still didn't really believe it until I got, during COVID. This is like when COVID, we're all locked down now.
Right.
So COVID there, it was like we were stuck in the cell.
By the way, how was COVID? How was that? Like, what was that like in prison?
They just, at first.
Were a lot of people dying?
No, not really. Maybe like 2 people on the yard.
Okay.
On our yard anyway. It's just a couple people probably died, but out of 900 people or whatever. But they stuck us in our cells and we didn't go nowhere.
Right.
And
had you gone and seen the board yet at this point?
No.
Okay.
But I got the slip of paper. So what happens when you're going to go to the board 6 months before you go, or wait a minute, I think almost a year before you go, they give you a slip.
Right.
Say, hey, you're going to board at this date.
Fill out your packet.
Get your packet, just whatever.
Right.
prepare or don't prepare. It's up to you.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
And at this point, tell us what you had been doing, like to change. You know, obviously,
I went through a ton of groups, man.
Yeah.
You know, CGA, Houses of Healing.
Had you gotten your electrician?
Yeah, I got that when I was doing meth, and I was all,
right,
you know what
right.
I mean? At the end, I started using, but I already been through school like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I had 5 months left when it really started getting bad.
But you had a trade is the point. So
Yeah.
you could tell the board, hey,
I had
look,
more.
I can get a job when I get out.
I got another trade at Kern Valley.
Okay.
Which is nothing. It's just, it's called a vocation or
Yeah.
whatever. But back then they were all junk. Office services, computers. And then I did another one, janitorial. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're nothing though. But all that changed a little bit later when they made everything like on a database, you know? But I had a good trade.
Yeah.
I had a good trade. And actually when I got to High Desert, they gave me a good job. I mean, I was on C status for a while because I came out of the hole. But then the counselor's like, hey, you got this electrical vocation. We're going to put you in maintenance when you get off because we need people that know how to do this stuff. But anyway, so that went on. But yeah, so COVID, we were just locked down.
Yeah.
You know, for months. You know, like out here, you guys, you know, were locked down pretty much. So we had the same thing, you know. We had to wear masks and all that stuff.
Right.
But then you get the slip about a year before, and then 6 months before you want to turn your packet in.
Right.
At least, or no less than 90 days before you go, you want to turn your whole packet in.
Right.
Because the psych evaluation, you want to have your packet in before they do a psych evaluation so they can come and talk to you, because a psych comes in from the state and evaluates you.
Right.
And, you know, it gives you a high risk, low risk, or medium risk.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Usually everybody gets a medium.
Right.
Or a high if you're just not done anything. I got a medium risk. And I just made a bunch of flashcards, man. I made a really good packet.
Yeah.
Explaining everything, relapse prevention program.
Yeah.
You know, relapse this, for gangs, for drugs. I wrote essays on why I shot the people, you know, just everything. And
and now you'd add what, 5 years sober?
5 years clean. Yeah. 5 years sober and 5 years, no
clean.
115s.
Oh, right. So no write-ups.
I did have a 128 though. I got lucky on that. This was like a year and a half before I went to board. Because I did smoke still.
Yeah.
Like here and there I would smoke.
Right.
Well, one time there was a dude in the tower. We call him floaters. Some young kid. He's a floater. He's not a regular. And after chow, I went by dude's cell and picked up a cigarette. He threw it under the door and I went home.
Yeah.
And he pulled me that cell and said, I'm writing you up. I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? You know?
Wait, so a guard gave you a cigarette and then wrote you up?
No, I went to another inmate cell.
Oh, I see.
And he's like, what was that? I said, coffee. But if he would have had me searched,
Right.
it would have been tobacco and I would have never got out.
Right.
So they asked me about that when I went to board too. Like, you know, I was just picking up coffee, and it's funny because the commissioner goes, well, I wish the cop would have searched you. I wonder if that really was coffee. You know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I just admitted it. I told him, look, because it's all how you talk to the board.
Yeah.
They want you to just admit to everything.
To be contrite. Yeah.
They want you to be honest and admit to everything.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
did you tell them about the meth use? Did you tell them about
because there was kites. So they asked me about that. After, you know, I told them my life story on how I changed, who I was then, who I am now. They asked me, well, we got these A12s here. What's this all about? It says here you were pressuring people and selling drugs. I go, I was.
Yeah.
I was selling drugs to support my habit. I you know, was back in my criminality.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, thank you. And they moved on. Right. You know, and when they came back from the you know, they take a little recess to determine what they're going to do.
How long does the interview last?
It was about an hour.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, of course I was, you know? Yeah. And then he came back from the thing and he goes, you know what, Mr. Curtis? He goes, we get people coming in here, you know, 99% of the time, and we got these A12s, and they say, oh, yeah, somebody's just making that stuff up or whatever. But you admitted to it, you know? And it's not often people do that. Yeah. And, you know, with everything that was said here today, we're finding you suitable. I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't believe it, dude. But that was the longest, you know, 4 months of my life after that, you know?
Wow. So after so your life has just changed that quickly.
Yeah.
So do you keep it in? Do you run around hooping and hollering? Do you tell anybody?
Well,
do
everybody knows, but now you got to worry about somebody dropping a kite on you or really hating on you.
Yeah. Now you got to really watch your back.
You got to walk on eggshells. You get a 115, it's over,
Right. What's a 115? Like a fight?
A rule violation.
Yeah.
You get a 115 if you stab somebody.
Yeah.
You got Division A, Division B, C, it goes on and on and on.
I would have gone straight to the hole.
Well, you can't. You can't do that. They
won't just send you to the hole.
That's being
that's a write up. They can't just send you to the hole.
No, they can't. And plus, that's how would they? The board would have something to say about that. Like you're saying you can't function or with stress or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point, they're finding you suitable that you're not a threat to society.
Right.
Their thing is continue programming like you are.
Right.
The governor's got to sign this. They tell you, whatever. Blah blah blah.
Did they give you a time frame, like an average time frame?
You got about 4 months for go through all the process, the paperwork.
Right. Wow. And
that was the longest 4 months of my life. Yeah, it was crazy, bro.
Holy
still like smoking and you know what I mean, here and there or whatever. I'm still whatever.
Are you prepared mentally to like get rejected? Are you prepared just because I would be crushed if I was like.
This is crazy, right? Because my cellie, he was a youth offender. And the paper comes in the mail because they took his date. He had a board date, but they took it.
What does that mean, took it?
They took the date because the family of the victim's family was suing the state over the youth offender law in the state of California because of him. Like the family and the DA got together and they're like literally trying to change the whole law.
Right.
So this paper comes in the mail like 2 months later after I get found suitable and I read it and it says, your date's been whatever. I didn't read the name.
Oh.
I was like, God, and my heart just sunk. Like, dude, I'm like, what the? And I'm like, no way. I'm pacing back because I pace myself all the time, like when nobody's there.
Yeah.
And then I read it again and it had his name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
wow.
I was like,
yeah. So you almost had a heart attack.
Dude, I was like, what the,
So was he doing life, your cellie?
Life without.
Okay. So he killed a guy.
Him and his best friend killed their friend.
Oh.
Like, beat him with a bat and all that. Yeah. He was like 16 when he did this.
Oh, and so they're actually changed that law because of his family.
No, they tried to. The victim's family tried to sue the state of California for change for the youth offender law.
Right.
Tried to get the whole thing thrown out for everybody.
Getting out.
They just can't get over the fact, like they don't believe in change.
Yeah.
But if anybody should be out, as far as I'm concerned, it should be Nate. Because he was such a square. Like I would have to he was just he used to be a crazy kid. Yeah. But now he changed his life, but he's like really straight and narrow.
Yeah.
More than anybody I know.
How much time had he done?
25 years at this time.
Yeah. When you're 16, you're not even a human. Like you're an amoeba, but and so he's still in there awaiting.
Yeah. He should be, he's just finishing up the program to be a drug counselor.
Yeah.
He's doing good. He lets us just slide right off him. He was going to board and he gets a thing in the mail saying, hey, your board's been taken away because the family of the victim's suing. And they didn't stop anybody else's, but they stopped his because of that,
Right.
And the court rejected it and got his date back. And then he went and got denied.
Yeah.
He helped me. Like he would sit in the cell with me. We would do board prep.
Yeah.
He helped me to where I got out, but he got denied. Because he minimized something. Because they asked him, they asked him a question. This is how the board is. Oh, so were you in a gang? Were you selling drugs for a gang? And he's like, no, I wasn't in no gang. I wasn't selling. He's all, but you were running drugs back and forth for on the yard, right? He's like, yeah, well, they use all that. He's minimizing the situation. Yeah, you were running with the gang. You know what I mean?
If they got to drag it out of you, that's what they don't like.
The thing is that it's insight is and minimizing is really, you got to really know what you got to be careful what you say.
Yeah,
I can't believe that I was able to make it through that.
Yeah,
like it's tough, dude. And a lot of these guys, and they're still getting denied.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, they've been to board 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And I don't know. I just am amazed that I was able to pull it off on the first one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just the mindset in prison for a lot of people that have done life or doing life or life on the installment plan. Yeah, they just have a hard time taking full responsibility.
It's not even, it's not that. It's just some of them aren't really good at articulating stuff, you know, like, it's sad actually. But I remember one of my buddies telling me when they did say I was going to board, I had all this big old packet. Yeah. He's like, you don't need all that stuff, dude. We're nonviolent 3 strikers. They're just going to let us out. I'm like, no, they're not. We're career criminals.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we didn't get struck out for just one thing. We're career criminals. Yeah. Like as a murderer, they murder somebody, they go to prison. They're there. They got one case. Yeah. Or maybe some little stuff before that, but they've been in prison a long time. We've been back and forth. Yeah. We're considered career criminals. Right.
3 strikers.
I'm getting out of here. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm still in my back of my mind. I think I'm going to be denied. Yeah. But I'm going to do everything I can not to. Right. You know what I mean? Yep. And it paid off.
So you get, do you remember the moment they knocked on your cell, told you to roll up?
No, they told me the day before.
Okay.
Hey, you're out here tomorrow. So. Yeah, I was.
I wish I could bottle that feeling. That I mean, I don't know what it's like to be doing life. We've had some guys on the show before that have gotten that call or that knock on the cell. Hey, you're rolling up. Yeah. Don't you wish you could capture that and just relive that moment, like when you're having a bad day, just on the streets, you know, in society? Feel what it's like to be getting out of prison, and then everything else is put in perspective. Yeah, you know. Like your worst day on the street is better than your best day in prison.
Well, I tell, I work with a lot of people and they kind of get like, oh, this and that. I'm like, hey, your life could be a lot worse. Yeah. I tell them all the time, dude, your life could be a lot worse. Yeah. A lot of ungrateful people out here.
Oh, of course. I'm one of them. I've forgotten all the lessons from prison. And now I'm just, solely focused on myself and worried about my champagne problems is what I call them. Yeah. But so... Are you still on parole?
No, I got off a couple months ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Yeah, so you've been out for 3.5, 4 years?
2 years.
So you didn't get home until 2022?
Yeah.
Holy
in January 2022?
That's wild. What was the craziest thing you had to get used to after 20 years? Like what struck you the most about society?
The phones. Yeah. Like you learning how to use these phones. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really people will say that I'm not really institutionalized, like a lot of people. And I think that I just able to adapt well to any surrounding, Yeah. For the most part. I mean, I still go into places and I got to look at everything. Yeah. Like, what's this? I don't like walking down the street at night. To me, I don't like doing that. I just think just whatever, there's still things in my mind that are still the same, but when I go somewhere, I look around, who's there, what's going on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I look at every situation. I try,
Yeah. When did you write the book? The reason you're here today?
2011 and between 2011 and 2013.
Oh, wow. So you wrote it in the law library or where?
I wrote it myself.
Okay. So you wrote it by hand?
Yeah. With a pencil, piece of paper, and a little typewriter. Click.
Wow.
Click.
Oh, wow. So, that you get typewriters in your
you get typewriters. Not good ones. Not with memories or nothing like that. Right. I mean, they did have some older ones, that been around a long time, but they stopped all that. But yeah, it took a long time because I had to rewrite a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
So then you got out. When did you publish it?
When I got out.
Okay.
It's been out for about a year. So
great. Where can they get it? Tell it. This is where we plug. Where can they get the book?
You can get it on Amazon.
Orange County, The Dark Side.
You can get it on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Nobles and some other places too, but I just let everybody know that it's on Amazon. Yeah. My Instagram page is Orange County, The Dark Side, 8083. Okay. OC The Dark Side, 8083. Okay. And my TikTok page is the same.
Hell yeah.
You can get on there and click a link and buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, dude, it's just essentially a story about just a biography about the streets and what I went through.
Wow, what an epic, man. Well, congratulations. Yeah, what are your plans for the future? You're an electrician now. You're doing your trade. Getting married.
Yeah, just enjoy my life, man. Yeah. I'm grateful to be free. Yeah. A second chance, Yeah. And I'm not going to take it for granted. Yeah. I'm very happy with my life today. I never thought I could have a life like this. Yeah. I remember dreaming in prison of being out, being in love, and just, having you know, everything that I have now. I never thought it was possible. It was like a dream.
Yeah.
And now I'm very happy with my life.
Amazing, man. Well, congrats, brother. I can't wait to read the book. Everybody run out and get Orange County, The Dark Side, Christopher Curtis. Chris, thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
I really appreciate it, dude.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm sweating. That was an epic. You know what I mean? Okay, guys, take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.